just getting out here early and just going back and forth like we are today. Constant communication on the field between the 2 days, and we just going to keep building.
That's Bills wide receiver DJ Moore from yesterday. 2 days of training camp down and a day off today for the Bills. They're back in action tomorrow for day 3. Defensive coordinator Jim Leonard also addressed the media yesterday as we're getting a first look at his defense, and he spoke on Ed Oliver's place in the new scheme.
You got to make teams find him. If you know where a guy's going to be, it's a little bit easier for an offense to game plan. The front structures we're going to run, it's going to be more multiple than what they've done here in the past, and that frees up a guy like Ed.
All of the coach and player audio is available to you on demand at WGR550.com. More will be available to you as we move through. Also, the Bills, they signed wide receiver Dante Pettis, formerly of the Saints, and released wide receiver Jalen Virgil on a non-football injury designation. Coverage of training camp on WGR, presented by Fiegel Car and Joyce, your border attorneys. Buy Outlet Liquor when you need to stock up. It's the place to buy a case. What's your outlet? And by the Barnes Firm. Car crash, you've got to call the Barnes Firm. 1-800-8-million. Around the NFL, the Saints, they signed wide receiver Chris Olave to a 4-year, $132 million extension through 2030. The 49ers signed wide receiver Deebo Samuel to a 1-year deal, a return home there. ESPN's Rich Cimini reports that Jets coach Aaron Glenn confirmed his team's interest in free agent cornerback Terrion Arnold. Bears wide receiver Rome Odunze said his foot feels amazing after saying earlier this offseason it created, quote, a different type of foot structure after breaking it. NFL Network's Ian Rappaport reports Shamar Stewart only suffered a hyperextended knee in Wednesday's practice. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Joe Cali for Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
It's Jeremy White and Joe DiBiase.
Happy Friday, everyone.
You see the soft serve chalk. When do we get the food items at the new Highmark Stadium?
Ooh, I'm really excited about that. I'm not going to lie.
They already were hitting it out of the park. Remember the day every year where they bring in what was there? There was some sort of hero sandwich last year, wasn't there?
Yes, there were a bunch of things that we all got to test.
Oh, the battle boat fries.
Yes.
That's what it was.
That was before my time on the show.
Right.
Oh, just before? Okay.
Just before.
Yeah, I remember that day very well.
Foot-long waffle fry boat where like half was one topping and the other was a different one.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was legit. They got it going on up there, no doubt.
Yeah. So that's got to be coming soon. I mean, I don't know. Will there be food at the blue and red scrimmage? There probably will, right? They're going to have 55,000 people there.
You have to assume.
You would think you wouldn't want 55,000 hangry Western New Yorkers in your brand new fancy building.
And show off a little bit of the operation, a little, because they might not be getting in for a regular season game, given the experience.
Listen, game day crews got to get their reps in. It's their training camp too, folks.
That's right.
They got to get there, get familiar with the system.
Right. Practice reps. They're only going to get 3 cracks at it, right? Because you get 2 preseason games and then the blue and red. Although I guess you get the open practice as well.
I wonder if that'll have
here we go.
food options.
Will people be upset, though, if there is food available at the blue and red, but then at the open practice there isn't? Because I imagine there will not be at the open practice. That's 8:30 in the morning.
Yeah, the breakfast items are probably few and far between.
Yeah, the peasants will not be happy if there's no food to be had for them.
That is context to a previous show. If anyone doesn't get the joke there. Owen is not calling people peasants. Trust me, he would rather scream at that person.
Vehemently against such a
thing. You bozo.
There you go. Just why not show up with some breakfast pizzas? Honestly,
at that point, right?
There's an idea.
Yeah,
I don't think if it were me, I don't think I'd be upset 8:30 in the morning and it's like a bare bones operation. You're there to kind of just see everything.
How
right?
long's the thing?
True.
An hour and a half?
The practice?
The practice or the scrimmage?
The practice.
The practice, that's a good question. Yeah, it's probably about what a practice training camp
Yeah,
is.
I don't know.
Hour
They're
and a half.
probably. I wouldn't expect food for that, but maybe they'll have a couple stands open.
Yeah.
Well, that's all coming up soon, and we'll start piling into the stadium in very short order here. I mean, the Hall of Fame game is August 6th.
Next Thursday?
So I was looking at a calendar because I know like the 31st to the 6th seems like it would be 1 week, but I believe it's actually less than a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's next Thursday. Next Thursday is the first preseason game, and we will get a lot of football is back tweets, and a lot of people are going on my list.
I've already seen it. Last Thursday, this week was the last Thursday without football, someone said. And I'm like, isn't there only one Thursday preseason game, or are there multiple?
There
might be multiple?
I think they're, those are in the rotation normally.
Okay.
But we're going to get what? We're going to get the Cardinals' third-string quarterback against, like, is Andy Dalton going to play for the Panthers? We'll cross that bridge when we get there, like who the backup quarterbacks will be. I remember last year Trey Lance was in the Hall of Fame game. I'm like, oh, that's exciting.
Right.
Give you a reason to watch.
Yeah, right. And do I remember anything that happened? No, not a single thing.
I'm just vehemently against the Hall of Fame game.
Yeah, you're
Just in
anti-Hall of Fame.
Yeah, like we did a hot and cold on it. It gets canceled all the time for weather, and it's just it's a little
It got canceled one year for the paint on the field.
Yes.
That was
the paint
too
melted
hardened.
and
The
turned into
melted.
concrete.
That's what it was. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we have a week until next week. Next week is the time of year for let's cancel preseason. Let's fix the preseason stakes. What kind of stakes can we throw on it that we would be interested in it? We'll get to that next week. Good morning, it's Jeremy and Joe. Training camp practice number 2 yesterday. And we will have Sal Capaccio on at 7, and we will recap all that we saw yesterday at camp. But largely another clean day, injury-wise. Everything looked pretty good, and there were a lot of rave reports about certain individuals on the field, like DJ Moore, and, Josh Allen, of course, along with that. So we got a lot of time to get to that, and we will be talking with Sal about all that he saw, again, at 7 o'clock. Little fantasy at 9. One of our favorites, Scott Pianowski from Yahoo, is going to join us on fantasy and draft season, and also the Bills. Hometown leagues, you probably are going to want a Bill. A lot of people are going to want a Bill along the way, and we'll go through some of their values and other around the league stuff as well. I saw him talking about tight ends yesterday, so we'll touch on that. But that's not till 9 o'clock, so plenty of time for your phone calls at 803-0550. And I actually was thinking about more of a Super Bowl question because I got a little annoyed this week when I was reminded that, oh, yeah, this is how we do things, where the Bills just don't really want to talk about expectations. Even Bean, the coach, I get it. The players, I get it. Even Bean, when asked about it, gave the same line. We're just worried about tomorrow, day to day. They are on that message whenever high expectations, Super Bowl expectations are brought up. And I was wondering about whether this is truly, for Bills fans, Super Bowl or bust. Literally, Super Bowl or bust. Because that gets said, that gets thrown around a lot, but does everybody really mean it? Because there is still things they haven't done. And it is year 1 of a new head coach that might have there be some acceptable results along the way that wouldn't end in them lifting a Lombardi trophy and have you going at the end of the year. All right, first year with Joe Brady, and that went, all right, I liked what I saw, and that went really well. And to me, Super Bowl or bust literally means if they don't win the Super Bowl, I don't really care otherwise where the season ended. They didn't win the Super Bowl. And that's all within the context of Josh Allen is 30 now, and how many more of these runs at it am I going to have? Because it's one fewer now. And that is kind of where I live. I don't know that I love that I live there, because I do think it makes it harder to enjoy moments along the way. But That's just kind of where I've arrived, and I know other fans have too. But I guess what that would ask of fans is then there's no room underneath Super Bowl for this season to be a success to you, because that would be they make the Super Bowl and don't win it. Is that a success to fans? How many fans would that be a success to? Like, I put a poll up wondering what the percentage will end up being, and so far it's pretty split. Like, is that a success? Because they haven't done it with this group. Maybe it depends on the age of the fan that I'm talking to, right? Like, my dad or a Bills fan my dad's age, they've seen that already. They've seen it 4 times going to a championship and not winning. And they would have seen it a 5th time in 99, if you want to include the Sabres for this. Like, one before I die. I've seen them go 5 times, 6 if you can remember 75. So what do I need them to go to another one for? This is supposed to be about winning one. And again, don't even know that I love where I live in that, but that's kind of where I'm at, and I'm not even old enough to remember 99 or, of course, the 90s. I'm not alive for it yet. Yeah, it'd be fun. Yeah, it would be great to have the 2-week build-up to the Super Bowl, and they're playing in it, and they won the AFC. Maybe they accomplished the 1 seed along the way. That's another thing they have not yet done that they could do under Joe Brady, and it might feel like, okay, that was a big step forward for a first-time head coach. But when I think about the guys all time that didn't win a Super Bowl, does it help a Dolphins fan or Dan Marino that he went to the Super Bowl in '84? Does it help how he feels about it?
No, not at all.
Like, I don't know what making the Super Bowl would really do for me other than the 2-week buildup, which would be great. And maybe there's an AFC Championship game that is all-time memorable, 51-3 against the Raiders, right? Like, the comeback game was not the AFC Championship game, but maybe I get something truly memorable at the new stadium. And in that way, you wouldn't want to say that it would be worthless, because that does mean something. But for me, it's all about them winning a championship with this quarterback. And they're also, and if they just don't win it and they lose to the Rams, on some level for me, it's just going to be, okay, it's one more year.
Yeah.
That's one more year where they didn't do it. And, there would also be a lot of fans that would say, making the Super Bowl and losing it will just actually sign me up for even increased heartbreak because I'm even closer to winning it. And if I don't win it there, maybe in some heartbreaking fashion, now I'm going to be living in this dark place for however long after the game, really thinking about, like, man, I'm really never going to do it, am I?
Right. I can totally see that. And I think that's where making it is, I think in a vacuum, people our age, Owen, and even you, Joe, like, who weren't there for the 4 Super Bowl losses in a row, if they just go a step further and lose, it's not as bad. But for me, I don't think you make this coaching change for me unless you think it can be done, right? And I think that's going to be, if it ends up the same as it was with McDermott, I think that's where the frustration is going to be, where it's where Super Bowl or bust, I think, is coming from. Because you don't make this change unless you think it's going to go up from here. So I think that's where I'm at least. I expect it to, at the least, make it and lose whatever. I don't know how I feel about that in the moment. I don't really want to think about that. But,
right. How it could happen.
Yeah,
of course.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I think if they win the Super Bowl, I mean, they made the right decision. If they don't, I think you're looking at it as why was a change made kind of a thing.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the question I have is, what does bust mean in this context? What's going to happen? Is anything going to change? Because they're not going to fire Brady after 1 year if they don't win the Super Bowl.
And they just promoted the general manager, so I mean that's not an easy fire.
I think the heat would be on for the guy they just promoted.
Yeah.
Into the biggest spot. I think Bean would be feeling it at that point if they almost no matter what happens, if they don't win, there's going to be heat on him. And my question would just be, what is bust? Just everybody's mad?
Pretty much.
I think everybody's going to be mad no matter what if they don't win. And I think everybody deserves to be and should be. And so if that's the bust, then it is absolutely, to me, Super Bowl or bust.
Yeah.
Because that is why this year feels so unique, I think, in the entirety of the NFL, because how often do you get a rookie head coach that comes in and he has to win the Super Bowl to be praised?
Yeah.
He has to win the Super Bowl in order for all of us, everybody in the Bills fandom, everybody, for us to go like, he did the job. He has to win the championship in his first year.
Right.
And that is massive pressure for a guy. And I think he's as well equipped to deal with it as I would think anybody is. But it's huge. And that is enormous. And you're going to have to face that. And if it doesn't work, it's going to be hot. And you have to know that. And I think they do know that. Because it's been hot years past, and it's not going to get cooler because you fired a guy that people loved. People are going to be more hot now. Because if it doesn't work, then people will question whether the right decision was made, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
So I think it has to be Super Bowl or bust at this point for this team. As long as the bust is not like, oh, well, okay, that means Bean's fired. I don't know that that's
No.
where this will end up. I don't think it will. I think it will be as close to that as we'll ever get, aside maybe from last offseason. And so it's big time.
Yeah, no, if they make it to the Super Bowl, a place they have not been, and do not win it, bust does not mean anybody is losing their job or anybody is going. You might even still be able to say, if they do that, all right, the hire worked. They went further than they ever have. So
they won an AFC championship or something like that.
I'm sure the idea of we took a step will be out there, even though, for me, I'm not going to feel that way. Not even if it comes with they are this air raid passing offense when they can be, while also being an elite run game. Like the defense looks good. Like everything around the roster looks really good. Maybe a couple of young guys have really turned into blue chip level players. All that will be nice, and all that will make it more likely to see them go back. But making it and not winning it, the only thing that could do for me is that you would leave that game being like, all right, I'm good. I look where we're at. Let's keep going. That is the attitude I would have if I didn't already believe they were capable of winning it. If the Sabres had made the Stanley Cup final last season and lost in heartbreaking fashion, would have been heartbreaking. But I would have had the attitude of, I know they're capable of that now.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that before, and that is a win. That's a huge win for me. But for the Bills, I don't need that win.
No, that was 2020 in the AFC Championship when they made it. They can do this.
Any of these last 5 years.
Right.
I would say, I don't need that win of proving that they can make the Super Bowl. We all know they can make the Super Bowl.
Right.
That's why people get mad when they don't get past the divisional round or lose to the Chiefs 4 times. It has nothing, well, it does have something to do with the games, but a lot of it baked in is you know what they're capable of, and they've not yet achieved it. Just getting there, I don't need that proof.
No.
I don't need that proof of concept, because I already feel like they're capable of doing it more than once, multiple times.
If you fire McDermott and point to a playoff wall that you can't overcome, if the playoff wall simply shifts one game later, the playoff wall still exists, and you have not accomplished the goal, and you have not done what you set out to do. And so, getting there is great, but if you lose the same way you've been losing every other year, just one step closer, I don't know what good that does for you.
No.
It's not a Lombardi for Josh Allen. It's not a Lombardi for this city, and that is what this is about. As much as they don't want to look it in the face and talk about it, that is what it is. And you cannot try and claim like, oh, well, we got one game further here. Like, they've lost in the divisional round and the AFC Championship. How different did those years feel for us?
It's the same.
It really felt almost the same.
Yeah.
I forget what game it was that 13 seconds even happened in.
Yeah. Well, that felt like an AFC championship.
Exactly.
Yeah,
but it wasn't.
Right.
And people think about it like it is, but it wasn't. And so what difference does it make if I'm in the divisional round, the AFC Championship, or the Super Bowl?
Sure.
I'm not winning.
Well,
I don't get it.
And to your point about the playoff wall, I think that's where the pressure comes from because the head coach has been a part of said playoff wall for 3 seasons now. And if he continues to be a part of that, that's where people are going to really draw that into question of what's the playoff wall really about if you're just going to continue to pull from it, you know?
Yeah.
So that'll be the interesting thing for me because as much as we say it's Joe Brady's first season, as a head coach, yes, don't get me wrong, and there's differences. But that offense hasn't really been all that different those 3 years, right? And we don't know what we're going to see this year. It might be more different, but you can assume it's going to look like it has. So if it's still falling apart a little bit and they're doing things that are frustrating and losing playoff games, the fingers are going right towards Brady as well, I think. I think that's going to get a little louder if things don't look great.
If you look at the Bills' odds right now, like their stage of elimination, and included within that is them winning the Super Bowl, and that being how the season ends. Super Bowl loser, runner-up, I see right here, being tied for the second most likely outcome, but it's kind of cheating to say that because they're all almost exactly the same.
Yeah.
They're all like between championship winner a little bit lower, but divisional round loss, AFC championship loss, regular season even in here.
Whoa.
I mean, it's only 23%. I think that's high.
Yeah.
I think it should be lower than 23%. It should be like 6%, or something. Wild card 22%. Yeah, like it's not any less likely, I would say, going into the year just because it hasn't happened yet. I don't know. I don't want to always be living in I don't care what happens in week 12 in an awesome game at home because I haven't won the Super Bowl yet, and I only care if they win the Super Bowl. But I do think it's harder and harder to push that off every year they don't win it because the anxiety will only slowly rise up as Allen turns 31 and turns 32. And okay, have I still not won it yet? Now 33. Like, that's only going to ramp up. And it's not to say I don't enjoy it when they win. I do. But I think the aftermath is more of it. Like, really, that's it for me. I don't know how many people this would be true of in the same way. But on game day, yeah, like, on game day, it's great. It's more for me about the days after, where that glow of they won and, like, okay, like, that's a high that you're riding for 3-4 days.
Yeah, right.
It's almost like what coaches say, a 24-hour rule. How, like, they have to force their players to do a 24-hour rule. Where, like, for me, it's not really forced. Like, it's automatic. Like, I wake up the next day and it's like, all right, I'm already like, okay, on to the next one because I'm trying to win the Super Bowl, and I need them to win the Super Bowl with this quarterback.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's been sort of a progressive, every year it doesn't happen. It's like, oh, that pit grows and grows as Allen ages and ages.
Right.
And that's not going to get easier. Like, that's going to get
that's the
more
thought.
and more intense.
He's just going to keep aging, and he might not play the same in 2 years, right? Like, it might have to dial back a little bit, and
Let's give it like 5. Let's throw a 5 on that number.
Sure, I'm not trying
to
to create a fear bunker or anything like scare anybody, but it's going to nag at you the longer it goes on, and especially with the circumstances. Like I said, I don't think you make the change unless that's the expectation with said change, you know?
Yeah, I do think that for me, I've been able to separate a lot of the time those two things of, like, the expectation of the season as a whole and trying to enjoy what this is, and it's incredible because you get to watch this team that is really incredible with this amazing athlete at the center of it every week, and that is still, for me, fun, and I do enjoy that. But like you said, there is that moment where the week progresses on, it's like Wednesday, and you're like,
yeah,
but still there's this big thing there, and that that again will continue to grow as it goes.
It's also another version of, and I know this because when we were at our draft party last year, or was it this year, ESPN put up a graphic during the NFL draft. We had a giant room full of Bills fans, and the Bills were on the clock, and they put the graphic up. It was like most wins in the NFL in the last 6 years.
Yep.
But there was a little note there about most wins in a 6-year period without winning a Super Bowl, something like that. Mm-hmm. And people don't like that.
No.
People don't like to see that. People, I think, maybe just want to ignore that they've really lived this opposite life to what you might have made a deal with the devil at some point along the way and said, you know what, I will take them winning one Super Bowl if they're just bad again after that for 10 years.
Oh.
Like, that's a deal that...
Would you take that?
I mean, a million people would have said that. I probably would have. Yeah, I would have said that. I'm sure a bunch of times in my life. Like, I don't even care what happens in the 5 years after they win. But, yeah, just give me the one. And they've lived the opposite life. They're incredible. They're always amazing. They're always fun to watch. They're number one in the league in wins in a 6-year period. It's a franchise that had a 17-year playoff drought. And they have the most wins in the last 100 games in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
What? They are?
And most consecutive playoff appearances.
And
now.
I think making the Super Bowl and not winning it would just be a little bit of a twist of the knife again. Like, yeah, you're close. Yeah, you're great, but no, you're not winning. You don't get this trophy. You could be as good. You could be as good as possible. You're not winning this trophy. I don't know. I think it would be a little torturous. Got a poll up on it. You want to vote on it. You want to call in about it. At Sneaky Joe Sports, 803-0550 is the phone number. We'll get into camp. We'll get into DJ Moore's day yesterday. He looked incredible by all accounts. And we'll have Sal on at 7 o'clock to break it down as well. As also, on Caleb Elam's oar, I am starting to get my hype to probably an unreasonable place for this guy. He's a 4th-round rookie linebacker, but I want to say I think right now that I've never been as excited about a 4th-round rookie going into a season ever with this team. We'll get to that as well. Got some fantasy along the way, a little later in the show, and a little sprinkle of hockey as well. I got a thought about some of the big contracts that we've seen signed this week. There was a $18.8 million contract out there that was signed this week in the NHL. So all that coming up. Your phone calls, Sal, Scott Pianowski, Joe Callio and Parker, and Jeremy's off today. It's Jeremy and Joe here on WGR.
just getting out here early and just going back and forth like we are today. Constant communication on the field between the 2 days, and we just going to keep building.
That's Bills wide receiver DJ Moore from yesterday. 2 days of training camp down, a day off today for the Bills. They're back in action tomorrow for day 3. Defensive coordinator Jim Leonhard addressed the media yesterday as well. So we're getting a first look at his defense and spoke on Ed Oliver's place in the new scheme.
You got to make teams find him. If you know where a guy's going to be, it's a little bit easier for an offense to game plan. The front structures we're going to run, it's going to be more multiple than what they've done here in the past, and that frees up a guy like Ed.
All of the coach and player audio is available to you on demand at WGR550.com. Also, the Bills, they signed wide receiver Dante Pettis, formerly of the Saints, and released wide receiver Jalen Virgil with a non-football injury designation. Coverage of training camp on WGR presented by Fiegel Car and Joyce, your border attorneys. By Outlet Liquor, when you need to stock up, it's the place to buy a case. What's your outlet? And by the Barnes Firm. Car crash, you've got to call the Barnes Firm. 1-800-8-million. Around the NFL, the Saints, they signed wide receiver Chris Olave to a 4-year, $132 million extension through 2030. The 49ers signed wide receiver Deebo Samuel to a 1-year deal. ESPN's Rich Cimini reports that Jets coach Aaron Glenn confirmed his team's interest in free agent cornerback Terrion Arnold. Bears wide receiver Rome Odunze said his foot feels amazing after saying earlier this offseason that the break created a different type of foot structure. And NFL Network's Ian Rappaport reports that Shamar Stewart only suffered a hyperextended knee in Wednesday's practice where he was carted off. So good case scenario there. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Joe Cali for Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
Now that he's in this major role as being a head coach, I feel like he's made it more known that this is the details and how we're going about things. With specific guys, he's counting on, you got to wear a hard hat every day with him. He wants the best out of everybody.
Bills wide receiver DJ Moore. Good morning, it's Jeremy and Joe. Jeremy's off. Back next week. The Bills practicing yesterday. They're off today. They'll be back on the field tomorrow. Saturday practice. Fans in attendance, I believe, for that one. Again, I don't believe that one is closed to the public. I don't have the schedule in front of me. I thought one practice that's closed to the public, but I don't believe it's tomorrow. Anyways, there's some around the league stuff to get to a little bit later as well. Baker Mayfield is not happy with his situation in Tampa. And I kind of feel like the way he operates and the way he has his experience in the NFL with Cleveland kind of turning their back on him after he battled through injury to play for them and then they punted on him, that he's a guy that when he says I took it disrespectfully from his own team, I'm taking note of that. Like, that guy's leaving.
Oh, yeah.
In a year.
Yeah.
I mean, you never know. They could offer him $58 million tomorrow, and then he signs. But I believe him when I hear him say something like that.
He's not exactly the posturing.
No.
I'm going to do this just to maximize my value guy. He's probably actually pretty.
He's veiling. He's not veiling anything.
Yeah.
Like that's what's going on. And he is going to try his hardest to play lights out this season without having the contract, and he's going to make it as difficult as possible for them to re-sign him if they want to.
Right.
So.
He also doesn't have the full right, obviously, to leave because they could franchise tag him.
Right.
We'll see if that gets there.
Could that get messy, you think?
Not during the year.
No.
Not during the year. I'm
just
saying for
play.
next season kind of a thing.
Maybe. Yeah.
If they tag him
And he
after
not sign the tag. Yeah, I think in a year. Yeah, next offseason, I think it could get very messy. But the Bills yesterday at practice, I think the story seemed to be, and we'll get with Salad this at 7, that DJ Moore and Josh Allen were on it. They were connecting down the field. They were connecting. That is where I get the most excited, is when I hear where DJ Moore is catching these passes. And it's, he's getting open in areas of the field where previously guys weren't getting open. I think one big misnomer that was made about Keon Coleman last year was that he had this unbelievable training camp. I think he probably had a fine training camp, but I remember standing on the sidelines with Jeremy and other people too, and he is getting locked up by Christian Benford, or not as often Hairston. I don't remember them going at it as much, but whoever really. Like, he just was not able to get open, and he'd make some nice catches, no doubt. But I don't remember him getting open like the way it seems like DJ Moore is getting open at practice through a couple of days. It's only a couple of days, but that's a really good sign because you could wonder what he had left in the tank. He is 29 years old, coming off the worst year of his career, and he's playing a position where, yeah, sometimes 29, that could be it. I mean, he is not, to me, the type of receiver that would be done at 29, maybe depleted, but not done. You know, like, the guy I always think of for this is Kenny Galladay. I don't know why, but he's kind of been out of the league for a few years now. But that dude was a 1,200-yard receiver for the Lions. And he was just out of the league by 29. Done. Like, was not even on a team. Not even a practice squad. Like, just gone.
Yeah.
And maybe that's more true of a guy like that. Like, he's a bigger receiver, you know.
Yeah, different archetype.
Like the types of receivers that, again, is kind of why I didn't want the Bills to draft Keon Coleman. That's kind of built on, I got to go up and make contested catches all the time.
More of a physical player, yeah.
Yeah, and I already have such a limited ability to get open that once that athleticism starts to dwindle as I get to 29, 30, 31 years old, now I have no ability to get open, and there's no amount of contested catches that I'm going to be able to make that's going to make up for I can never get open. So I don't think that's DJ Moore, though. I think DJ Moore is a route runner. He's a guy that, why has he been good in his NFL career? He's not big. He's 6 foot 213. He is good at contested catches, but he's not 6'5". He's not leaping 10 feet in the air and mossing people. He doesn't do that. He is and has been a receiver that has 8,000 yards in his career in 8 years because he's a good route runner, he's a good separator, and he's good at getting open. And so far, through 2 days, just give me every day, want to check a box. Like, okay, DJ Moore was just getting open all day today. Okay, good. That gives me more evidence that he's still that player and is going to be able to do that for the Bills once the regular season shows up.
Yeah. I have been trying to curb my, like, don't get so excited. It's day 2 of camp.
Day 2.
I know he's looks awesome, and but there are parts of what I'm seeing where it's like, okay, but the smoothness to his routes, the way he's breaking off in his cuts, it does look different to me. To like a guy that we haven't seen since Diggs. And that is extremely exciting. The way the reviews he's getting, everybody's talking about him being, you know, the most noticeable guy on offense. And that's, I mean, what would you have wanted other than that coming in after 2 days of camp? Like, oh, he looks like the best guy on the offense? Great.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we want, need, and should expect. And if he's doing that, then we're in good shape. And, like, I know we all didn't love what they had to pay for that guy, but if he does live up to the sort of things that we're hearing right now over the course of a season, we'll forget all about it.
Yeah, and I think this is also confirming, like, you know, his best 2 seasons were with Brady. He looks buttery smooth in a Brady offense, and I know it's not pads or anything like that, so you have to take that with a grain of salt, like we're saying, and everything. But I am starting to expect big things from his production with Allen here. I'm like, it's getting to that point a little bit.
Yeah, I think this is why I pulled back on a fantasy trade with Jeremy and also others. I have DJ Moore in one of our dynasty leagues, and so I've had to really wrestle with, like, okay, what do I think of Moore for fantasy? Because where I was going into the offseason was this player's value is done. Like, he being what he was, this player's value is done. And a lot of that was just tracking him. The rumors were Chicago was just going to dump him. That it was, maybe he'll even get cut, but he'll get traded for some low round pick somewhere because they just want to get out of that salary, and they want Luther Burden to explode. That was the noise out of Chicago. And when you go into an offseason and that's kind of the sound around a player, like, I'm not getting excited about that. And then he got traded to the Bills. And it was, oh man, lifeline. Look at this. Like, okay, for fantasy specifically, now I have a reason to hope, reason to expect, even though I have a season last year that makes me pessimistic that he'll ever be the player that he was 3-4 years ago again. But what did the Bills invest? And to me, that's always been a negative, and it still is. It is crazy to me they had to invest what they did. Yeah. Not even just the pick. The pick was the starting point because I remember the minute it was happening, Moore was getting traded to the Bills, and I think Ian Rappaport tweeted out that it was going to be a mid-round pick.
Yes.
That was going back for Moore. And that was like, on all accounts, oh yeah, exactly. That's exactly what we would have thought. Right. Mid-round pick for DJ Moore. Yep.
3, 4, 5.
5th round pick. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like that makes total sense because he's going to cost the team he's going to a lot of money.
Yeah.
And he's coming off a 600-yard season with the best quarterback he had ever played with, Caleb Williams, that he couldn't get on the same page with. Yeah, that makes sense. Minute later, 2nd round pick. Everyone freaked out. Too much? Yeah, maybe. That's how Twitter works, right? Like everyone freaks out a little more than they need to. 2nd round pick. What? And then doubled down on it. He already was kind of expensive. Let's guarantee him and give him even more money. And now I'm committed to him for basically 3 years, which is that's a lot. It's a long time for a 29-year-old receiver that is coming off a down year to commit $28 million per year to. That's the cap hit after this year, by the way. Mm-hmm. That is not... They did that, of course, to lower the cap hit this year, $6 million. But $28 million, $28 million, $28 million, and you can't really get out of it until that final year. So that's a heavy investment, and that's been a negative to me. Like, why did you need to commit that much to this player? That seems insane. But the other thing that it does for what you should expect from Moore is they're gonna make it work. They're invested to make that work. There is so much committed to him for a long time right now that they are going to put him, I believe, in the best situation to get the most out of him, because that's a big move, and you don't want to look dumb at the end of that, where he kind of fades into the background. And this is where I don't actually really believe that he has the downside of what a Josh Palmer had or a Curtis Samuel had, where they eventually just get made invisible. Mm-hmm. And once they come back from injury, there's never really an effort to reintegrate them into the offense because they're fine players. They're okay, but they're not on this level. They just kind of fade into the background. DJ Moore is not going to fade into the background. There's too much committed to him that even if he had injuries and missed a few games, I think there would be a big effort to get him back rolling as the number one receiver in this offense. It's so much money to pay to him. And again, this could be a Bills point or a fantasy point. I just think you're going to get a lot of production.
Yeah.
It seems like it.
Yeah, I think about it like how we used to get frustrated about, Brady and the whole organization talking about like, well, we gotta get Keon the ball.
Forced Keon Coleman the ball was explicitly used in the pre-Miami interview.
And it was because they had drafted him in a high position, and that was their investment. And in the same way that they invested the draft pick in Coleman, they've invested a draft pick and a whole heap of money into DJ Moore, and that should, if all this is accurate, which I think it's pretty clear it is, will push them to, well, he's got to be a big part of what we do, because it has to be justified, and if it's not, then that does not look good,
right?
And that's a problem for us.
It'll be interesting to see how this ends up, because when Brady came into the Bills' offense, you had Diggs still number one receiver, all of that, and his production dipped pretty exponentially, right? He wasn't doing what he was doing the years past. He wasn't getting fed the ball. Like, I'm looking at his targets in 2020, 166 targets on the season. Like, it was unbelievable what he was doing. Are we flipping away from that now? Everybody eats is kind of dead. No one said it in the last 6 months to a year, probably. Like, are they going to focus on a wide receiver one in this Joe Brady offense?
I think it might not be dead as much as it might actually be natural now.
Mm-hmm.
Before it felt forced. It was, we don't have anybody that actually is that good.
So we got to move it everywhere.
This is the only way we can sell this as a strategy is everybody eats, everybody's going to chip in, and the aggregate is going to add up to a Stephon Diggs.
Mm-hmm.
This is closer to, I think, you actually have guys that are talented in there, and you could be the everybody eats offense that was a true everybody eats offense when Stephon Diggs was originally here. And he was catching 130 passes, and Cole Beasley was catching 100 passes, and John Brown was catching 70 passes, and Gabe Davis was catching 40 passes, and Dawson Knox was catching 40 passes. And that was everybody eats.
Right.
That was, you were such a good offense, and you had a guy taking attention away from everybody else that made it easier for them. And that point was always lost when the everybody eats thing was happening.
Well, it was everybody
for
nibbles.
a year and a half. Right.
That's what was happening.
What everyone discounted was how much Diggs did for everybody else around him. And I heard Matt Beauvais on It's Always Game Day in Buffalo mention a conversation with Khalil Shakir, and they were talking about what a guy like DJ Moore does for him, how much easier he makes it for him on the offense, because now Shakir's not the focal point. And if DJ Moore can go out there and be a true number one wide receiver for the Bills, that doesn't make everybody else invisible by stealing away targets and catches. That makes it easier on all of them. Because now, when like Keon Coleman's out there, a defense can say, I'm just going to throw one guy over there, and he will lock him up, and I can focus all other 10 on the rest of the offense. And if DJ Moore can go over there and be good enough to where, all right, that safety's kind of got to cheat over there because they're afraid Moore's going to beat their corner over the top. Or, Moore's moving over here. We got to shift everything this way. Just the more attention that you can gravitate towards one guy only makes it easier for guys like Kincaid, Shakir, Palmer, Coleman, whoever it is. And they have not had that for the last 2 years. So I think, no, like everybody eats, the mantra might be over them using it, but the reality of an offense like that could return in the same way that it did when there was a Diggs offense that set a record, I believe, on the most players in a season that caught a touchdown.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's right. That's right.
That was like
is-
5 years
what
ago.
season that was. Yeah, might be 2020 or 21.
And I think that is all easier when you have one guy at the top that can have his own gravity. That's the thing about Moore that I'm not sure. I think he'll be good, and I think he'll produce. What I wonder about him is will he be so good that he will have his own gravity, that he will attract defensive attention to his side? That I'm not sure how good he actually has to be to warrant that. He might have to be about as good as he was when he first got to Chicago or what he was in Carolina. 803-0550 is the phone number. Sal's coming up at 7. There was a C.J. Gardner-Johnson dorm stream again yesterday. I don't think we got anything crazy, but a couple of little interesting things that I'll give you when we come back. Sal Capaccio coming up next. C.J. Gardner-Johnson had a dorm stream yesterday. And nothing bad. Actually, he's calling it a 10-day... he's doing it every day for 10 days, dorm stream, on Twitch. What did we get yesterday? Nothing crazy. He said he's going to be a Bill for the next 5 years. He did say that. Super Bowls, championships. Yeah.
Okay.
What would you expect?
Dion's my favorite recurring character on there.
I did see a video also that C.J. Gardner-Johnson gave a Bill staffer $20,000 to help pay off her student loan debt.
Yes, I saw that too last night.
Yeah.
Somebody tagged us in that, and that was so cool.
Yeah.
That was so cool.
He's a real
That was
cancer
awesome.
to the locker room.
Listen, so far, I am a huge C.J. Gardner-Johnson guy.
If he's a Bill for 5 years,
Are you going to get a jersey?
Oh, I'll get it. Oh,
if he's
absolutely.
for 5 years, you have to.
I might do it just to do it because I don't have. All I've got is a red Diggs color rush. If I get another like kind of psycho diva guy, I would be very into that.
That's a long last name, though.
True.
Long nameplate there.
Mm-hmm.
Get my jersey wall divas only.
As someone that has multiple Max Affinaganoff jerseys, which is like the longest name I have on a jersey.
Yeah.
That's a hockey jersey, so it might be a little different. The nameplate extends like onto the shoulders, and I'm not gonna lie, it is a little annoying when you're wearing it.
Yeah, I believe that.
I bet a football jersey might
be okay.
I
gotta look at his jerseys then.
Sal, when we come back on practice number 2 at St. John Fisher, that's next here on Jeremy and Joe here on WGR.
just getting out here early and just going back and forth like we are today. Constant communication on the field between the 2 days, and we just going to keep building.
That's Bills wide receiver DJ Moore from yesterday. 2 days of training camp down and a day off for the Bills today. They're back in action tomorrow for day 3. Defensive coordinator Jim Leonard also addressed the media yesterday as we're getting a first look at his defense, and he spoke on Ed Oliver's place in the new scheme.
You got to make teams find him. If you know where a guy's going to be, it's a little bit easier for an offense to game plan. The front structures we're going to run, it's going to be more multiple than what they've done here in the past, and that frees up a guy like Ed.
All the coach and player audio is available for you on demand at WGR550.com. Also, the Bills signed wide receiver, Dante Pettis, formerly of the Saints, and released wide receiver Jalen Virgil on a non-football injury designation. Coverage of training camp on WGR, presented by Fiegel Car and Joyce, your border attorneys, by Outlet Liquor. When you need to stock up, it's the place to buy a case. What's your outlet? And by the Barnes Firm. Car crash? You've got to call the Barnes Firm. 1-800-8-million. Around the NFL, the Saints, they signed wide receiver Chris Olave to a 4-year, $132 million extension through 2030. The 49ers signed wide receiver Deebo Samuel to a 1-year deal. ESPN's Rich Cimini reports that Jets coach Aaron Glenn confirmed his team's interest in free agent cornerback Terrion Arnold. Bears wide receiver Rome Odunze said his foot feels amazing after saying earlier this offseason following the injury, it's a different type of foot structure. And NFL Network's Ian Rappaport reports Shamar Stewart suffered a hyperextended knee in Wednesday's practice. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Joe Cali for Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
It's Sal Capaccio.
Sal Capaccio.
Somebody made a comment of Sal in prison. We do have the center block walls here.
You're about 10 seconds away from spending the rest of your life in the padded room.
They treat us very well here, actually.
On WGR.
Welcome back to Jeremy and Joe. Sal Capaccio now on the Western Hotline. Love that from Joe Cali. Although, Sal, you're not in your dorm anymore, right? You drove home last night?
I'm in Studio Capaccio this morning. Capaccio. That's correct. Actually drove home. It's interesting. Matt Bove and I, we have a goal like, hey, when do you want to do a podcast after practice? And the first day we did 2 o'clock. Mm-hmm. We said, let's do it on the second day at 2 o'clock. Well, the Bills have been ending practice early. These earlier practices are really nice. I mean, it's early in the morning, but they were done by 10 o'clock the first day, 10:05, I think, yesterday. Matt and I both wrapped up some work, and we both kind of had some things going on and said, why don't we both just go home and we'll do the podcast from our houses, from our studios there. Actually, Matt went to Channel 7. He was at the station, and I did it. So I actually was here yesterday before 2 p.m.
Are you going back tomorrow?
Which is insane.
You're going back tomorrow, or tomorrow morning?
I'll go back up tomorrow and then back, and just for the day, just for practice. It's not. I'm not.
Right. Yeah.
I won't stay over because it's not back to back.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I will go right back up tomorrow, and then come back home.
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, I didn't know because 8:30 practice again, right? Because when me and Jeremy would go up there and do the show, like sometimes I would stay over the night before, but other times I would drive up that morning. So.
Now, it also depends on, like, tomorrow's a Saturday, so there's no, this show isn't on. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
So if it was, maybe I would go up tonight, to be there for you guys and kind of be able to get settled in and talk on the radio. But, tomorrow's not one of those days I can kind of just leave here at about, 7 o'clock and roll in a little before. I shouldn't say about 6:30, roll in before press conferences.
Yeah. So, Sal, on yesterday's practice, and the Bills did make a very minor roster move, Dante Pettis at wide receiver. The fantasy sickos will remember Dante Pettis, Sal, from years ago because he was a second-round pick that had a good rookie year with the Niners, and there was a lot of hype after that good rookie year, and he really never did anything in the league after that receiving, but he's been in the league for 7 years. I'm not thinking about him making the Bills roster, but that was more of he's still playing 7 years after he kind of disappeared. But here he is.
Yeah.
So
this will be his 31-year-old season.
Right.
I remember even going back then when it was probably around 2021 when Bills fans were like, hey, what about Dante Pettis? Because he had put a little work in the league, right?
Yeah.
For a couple of years. And he was a free agent. But, it hasn't been great since. Now, a few years ago, he did have, 245 yards. It doesn't sound like anything, but that was well topping what he had done the previous couple of years, all combined. So it's more about this move to me. The reactions I got when it was announced the Bills did this were mostly, why aren't they signing Brandon Cooks, right? It's why are they signing Dante Pettis and not Brandon Cooks? I'll try my best to explain. Now, again, these are things that I just try to explain to people. You don't have to agree or disagree, but this is how teams operate, most teams, and this is how the Bills are operating in this situation, basically. Brandon Cooks is the kind of player that they're not going to sign him unless they need a receiver, like in their top half of their group. That's the kind of player you're not just bringing in to kind of compete for you to have a few reps at the bottom of the roster. You want to call it a camp body. I don't love those words because I think all people have a chance to make the roster. But you don't bring in Brandon Cooks to be a camp body. You bring in Brandon Cooks because you need a receiver, and you plug and play, and he's going to be on your roster. And you make a bit of an investment. Now, it doesn't mean it's a lot of money. It could be even, closer to the minimum than a huge deal. That's fine. But if you bring in Brandon Cooks, he's playing over some of your guys that, quite frankly, they want to see through. They want to know what they have in Moore, Shakir, Coleman, Palmer, Bell. I would say those are the 5. Even Hardman, right? Those are the guys. They need their reps. The Bills have to go through this process to see, and they want to go through this process to see, what do we have in this group? And maybe they get to a point where they don't think they need Brandon Cooks. Maybe they think they don't need a guy like Brandon Cooks. That's why they don't sign Brandon Cooks now, and they sign a guy like Dante Pettis. Dante Pettis is not a quote-unquote threat to play over any of those guys. He's not taking reps away from any of them. They don't want to take any reps away from those guys until they know they need to do that.
Right. Yeah, that all makes complete sense to me about you don't want to block anybody right now in camp when you might not need to. Could another part of that be the money involved here? Like Dante Pettis, you're not giving any guaranteed money to. That just kind of happens. Cooks, I don't know. I've not really thought about what that would be because I never really thought it would be a lot of money. But when I saw Deebo Samuel sign yesterday, Sal, for 1 year, $7 million. Yeah. One thing about Cooks when he got here last year, and I think he probably signed for the vet minimum, didn't he? When he signed, but he was already getting paid, right? He'd already been paid for that year. New Orleans, he was on a 2-year deal, $6.5 million per. And even if it's not $7 million, doesn't Cooks probably require a little bit of guaranteed money that would count against your cap that you might not need to spend?
Yeah, probably. Plus, he's a veteran. He's been in the league a while, so he's going to have a higher minimum salary anyway.
Right.
A guy like him could wind up costing you over your top 51 for sure. The top 51 salary caps count. A guy like Dante Pettis isn't going to do that. He doesn't even make a dent into your salary cap right now. And that does matter at this point. And you're right. What does Brandon Cooks want? Is there any sort of, we're not going to pay you $5 million a year. And if you do that, you're making an investment. He's making the team. He's going to be here. I understand and I'm with everybody. I've said it many times. Josh Palmer is on this team right now, and you wonder if he is going to make the team, and he's costing this team money, and they can move on for him. But they're going to see if Josh Palmer can play on this team and be a player that they can count on. And maybe at the end of the day, it doesn't work out. Maybe they wind up moving on. Maybe they keep him, but they could save over $2 million. But right now, they have an investment and a vested interest in seeing that through to see where that falls and what that looks like.
Yeah,
I like Brandon Cooks a lot. I think Brandon Cooks could, and I've been saying for a few months, I wouldn't be stunned if Brandon Cooks is on this roster, even over Josh Palmer. But right now, it's the same thing with Tre'Davious White. Now, I will say, I think with Tre'Davious White, the money is a little bit more of an issue. Tre'Davious last year signed for $6 million up to $8 million. Now, you're not paying him that this year, right? But I don't think Tre'Davious White's signing for 1.5 either. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think that is more, and he comes in here, he's going to be the fourth outside corner. And I think that's where we're not doing that right now. So I think both those guys are kind of in the same boat, Joe, but just for a different reason. Anyway, that was the reaction I got when they signed Dante Pettis. So he will be added to the wide receiver room, and no more Jalen Virgil. He failed his physical, from what I understand, which is why they moved on from him.
Gotcha. So on yesterday's practice, training camp coverage, by the way, here in WGR, brought to you by Fiegel Car and Joyce, your border attorneys, by Outlet Liquor. When you need to stock up, it's the place to buy a case. What's your outlet? And by the Barnes Firm Car Crash. You got to call the Barnes Firm, 1-800-8-million. Yesterday, Sal, biggest stories, Michael Hoyt practicing in team drills, and then also it felt like every time you opened Twitter, there was a new clip of DJ Moore being found by Josh Allen.
I agree. Those are the two things really we focused on Always Game Day in Buffalo, Matt and I, when we were talking, because I was just going through that, and I'm going to put some clips out today of both these things. So Michael Hoyt and TJ Parker as well, by the way. That was another guy. But let me start with those guys. The storyline of the day for me was Michael Hoyt. So wrote about it at WGR550.com. He joined 10 other teammates on defense for the first time since last year. Why does it matter to say it that way? Because he was taking part in individual drills, and even in mini camp and then the first day of training camp, but not with a actual 11-on-11. And Joe, this was not, and I know there's no pads on, but this wasn't a jog through 11-on-11. They're going full speed, and Michael Hoyt was out there and he was running like he's practicing. I wonder what happens once the pads do come on over the next couple of days. I think Monday's the first day, but as of right now, like, it's full go. He's doing everything, and I think that's impressive. Not only that, Joe, he had a sack on a play. What would have been a sack? They're not hitting the quarterback, obviously, but he had a play where it would have been a sack. And Matt Perino and I, after practice, asked him about it. He broke it down. He said it's a version of power protection, a look that they give that solves a lot of problems. He got loose, and it was really interesting hearing him talk about that. So this is really, really encouraging news for Michael Hoyt. And, man, if the Bills can have this guy available like that, and it appears they will, he just gives so much more versatility and flexibility to Jim Leonhard. And then, DJ Moore continues to just make plays with Josh Allen. And you could find, I'm sure, and there are out there, clips of a missed pass from Josh Allen and DJ Moore in some capacity. You could probably find that with anything in training camp, to be honest with you. I will tell you this. There's been far more positive than negative. There's been far more plays made than not made between Josh Allen and DJ Moore. And yesterday, the first one was Moore got loose for a very deep ball down the sidelines. Josh saw him. I think what Matt said, I didn't see this, D. Alford had slipped. And Josh saw that, took advantage of it, and he uncorked it about 60 yards in the air through the rain. DJ Moore caught it. All of the crowd was, it was going crazy. And I'm thinking, side topic, why does the crowd always cheer for the offensive plays? How come they don't cheer for the defensive plays, right? Guy makes an interception, you should cheer too. It's your defense. But they're all like, oh. Right. Anyway, a little while later, Moore is on a crossing route. Josh threads the needle, hits him in the middle. Moore puts his foot in the ground and just takes off to the house. Legit touchdown. Like, even if they were hitting and tackling, he would have scored.
Yeah. When he moves and you watch him, is he, I don't know, like, you're already getting a handle on, like, how, like, the style of receiver that he is. He's not big, right? Like, he's only 6 foot. He is good at going up and getting it. But, like, the story of him throughout his career has been route runner. He's a good separator. And I don't know, like, when I hear and see, like, he's getting open and some of it's happening down the field, that is, that's a guy that I think moves well and is I don't want to go all the way to expert because I don't think he's, like, elite in this category, but he's been very, very good throughout his career at knowing how to create leverage and separation and get open for his quarterback.
I think we've talked about this. You know who I love to compare him to, right? Stephon Diggs.
Yeah. Right.
By the way, I just looked. They're both 6 foot. The difference is DJ Moore's a little bigger, a little heavier.
Right.
DJ Moore's listed at 213. Stephon Diggs 191. So quite a bit, maybe. I mean, who knows exactly what's accurate right now? Mm-hmm. Joe, I really think he's very similar to Stephon Diggs. The way he moves, his route running, he does not have elite top end speed, but he's fast enough to run by you. He is a very, very smooth route runner in and out of cuts. He understands nuances of route running. He has really good hands. It really reminds me of having Stephon Diggs on the team, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, I almost hate putting that out there because of the production Diggs had. But the way I'm asking you about, like, the style and the way he runs, yes. and that I could see. Like the way they move, even if he's not as good of a separator as Diggs was in his prime.
And the difference is, too, like you say, in this prime, like, they're getting DJ Moore at a different time of his career.
Right.
Than what they got Diggs, and Diggs was mid to late 20s when he came to Buffalo. Well, maybe not. I mean, a little bit later. He's 28. This is his 29-year-old season.
Right.
DJ Moore. He will be 20. He just turned 29.
And Diggs
just turned 29.
And Diggs was 27.
And Diggs, when they got him, how old was he?
27.
Yeah, so they're
a couple of years.
And he was in Buffalo for 4 years, so
Yeah, it's only a couple of year difference, but sometimes with the receivers that can make a big difference. But hopefully with Moore, he's still got a few years left. They're committed to him. Otherwise, Sal, at practice yesterday and really through the first 2 days. The guy I want to ask about, I was listening to the Bootleg Football podcast again. They did a really long breakdown on the Bills going into the season, and it's been taking me a couple days to get through it. Brett Coleman, EJ Snyder. And they were just gushing about Caleb Elam-Zor, about what they thought of him at the draft, that it was madness that he went in the 4th round. And you could even tell, like Brett was talking about him, like he doesn't even know that Bernard or Dorian Williams have been dealing with injuries. And he's talking about how, like, this guy is going to get onto the field. Like, it's just going to happen. And I'm listening, and I'm like, I'm really trying to keep my hype in check with a guy who was a 4th-round pick and hasn't played yet in the NFL. But, Sal, I feel like everywhere I turn, somebody is talking that way about him. And I'm trying to figure out where to put my expectation, because I don't want to put it too high. He still is a 4th-round rookie, but it sounds like everything is going well. And the athleticism is there. And, again, here's like 2 guys that cover the league that are almost confused that he went as late as he did in the draft.
I think you're approaching it the right way, which is you have a reason to be excited, but you can't get yourself too far into that because this has to start with opportunity. And that's what he's getting right now, Joe. He's getting opportunity. And that's why you're seeing his name and you're hearing his name from reporters, and then it becomes a little bit more widespread, and national people start talking about him and remembering what they thought about in the draft, and like, oh yeah, this is what we talked about. Honestly, if Terrell Bernard had been healthy all spring and is healthy now, and if Dorian Williams had been healthy all spring, I don't know where Caleb Elam-Zor is, where his opportunity is. I think he'd be in a rotation fighting for probably Dorian Williams, the will linebacker spot, but he's had opportunity. Dorian Williams was out during the spring and during OTAs and minicamp. And then Terrell Bernard has been missing, team reps. He's still practicing. So not only was Caleb Elam-Zor practicing the weak side spot, he's now calling the defense as the middle linebacker, filling in for Terrell Bernard. Like, he's getting everything that you need, and he's in the middle of everything, quite literally and figuratively, right? Mm-hmm. He's getting the opportunity for people to say, oh, look at that guy. Well, he just made a play. He made another play. Whereas most rookies aren't going to get that opportunity on a team like the Buffalo Bills that have a lot of veterans. Okay, so then you go to the next step, which is, okay, it's one thing to get your opportunity. Is he actually taking a hold of it? I mean, I think he's checking all the boxes. I think he's checked all the boxes going back to OTAs and minicamp, but you can't tell as much from them. We still don't know until the pad's on. I mean, everybody will tell you that. But I'm going to tell you this. This is the kind of guy I don't worry about when the pads come on. Like, he is going to be a physical athlete, running sideline to sideline, attacking the football. When he was drafted, he was kind of described as a see ball, get ball guy. You know what I mean? Yep. And even some of the analysis on his draft profile coming out were maybe he's got to refine the nuances of shedding blocks, taking angles, but he's going to get to the football. Like, that's what he does. And he's going to do that here, Joe. And the last part of it is, and I think part of the reason why you hear these guys talk about it too, Joe, everybody who talks about him, you can kind of see they're in the same spot you are. Mm-hmm. I think they're really excited, but don't want to get too excited until they really can do that. You know what I mean?
Right. Because, again, it's a rookie, and it's a lot for a rookie to take on. But, right, like, I'm looking at his RAS right now. Like, he got a 9.3 RAS score, and he ran a 4.47, which was in the 98th percentile for linebackers. Yeah. There is how good he could be, and there's also if he is good and is playing and on the field, like, what a guy like that could do for Jim Leonard, who I'm sure, like, with the blitzes that he's going to want to run, and when you are running simulated pressure and maybe you're bringing a corner off the edge or a safety and he's got to drop into coverage, I mean, the speed, that's always been, I think, a disappointment about Dorian Williams, right, is he's got this insane speed for his position, but can they just harness that and make it consistent? And, I mean, they still could do that with him, too, because he's still here. But I feel like if you have a linebacker with that speed and you can make him consistent, that probably for a defensive coordinator is going to open up a ton of things that they can do.
Oh, my gosh, yeah. And, I know Sean McDermott's not here anymore, but the philosophy of this organization, Brandon being the top down since this regime has been in charge, has been to learn these different spots, to be versatile. You know that, right? Which is play inside, play outside in the old defense, play different position, Mike and Will, basically. And the same thing here. There's 2 inside linebacker spots, but they are different. One's the Mike linebacker. He's going to be calling the defense, has a certain role. One's the Will linebacker. He has a different role. And the more you can do, the better. And not only is Caleb Elarm-Zor getting an opportunity on the field, he's getting opportunity to learn both spots right now. And that's just going to serve him better going forward. I agree with what you said they said in the podcast, which is he's going to be on the field, I think, in some capacity. Mm-hmm. We just don't know what that is right now. And one of the bigger questions is, like, when is Terrell Bernard going to start taking team reps and be on the field and doing everything that we expect, to see from Terrell Bernard? Because 2 days in so far, that has not happened. Mm-hmm. And he's been on the sidelines. He's been doing individual work, all the things. And Brandon Beane said he's fine. So I'm gonna go with that. And maybe tomorrow he's out there. But until I start to see that, like, every single day that Caleb Elarm-Zor stacks at middle linebacker is another day that just gets me to go, if that makes sense.
So we think he'll be on the field in some capacity almost no matter what. I was listening to you and Matt on It's Always Game Day in Buffalo yesterday, and you guys were talking about Jalen Kilgore. Do you feel the same way about Kilgore? He was the next pick after Elam-Zor, 5th-round rookie. Do you think we'll arrive at a point where they will want to find ways to get him on the field too? Is it going that well, I guess, for him?
I think so, but that's tougher. That's a tougher deal because he's not going to start over Cole Bishop or C.J. Gardner-Johnson, right? He's a safety. That's not going to happen unless there's injury. Like, he could be the 3rd guy. That's fine. At nickel, they have D. Alford, and you need a nickel corner, and that's not really what he is. If you want to put him as a big nickel safety, that's where he's going to have to play a little bit more. Now, what you could do is during a game, during situations, you could say we're going 3 safeties and one linebacker, 1 inside linebacker. You don't have to take the nickel corner off. Maybe you just want to be a little bit more athletic at the second level and put him down in the box. So he plays like a quasi linebacker, the big nickel, right? That's what he is, big nickel safety / linebacker. So yes, I think to answer your question, they're going to find ways to do that because I think he's going to allow them to feel comfortable putting him in those situations. Not necessarily force the issue, but say, look, we have options here. If we're facing a team that is going to big boy us a little bit and try to be a little heavier, but man, they can leak out in the tight end. Let's put Jalen on the field. You can do things like that when you have guys who can play both in the box, back deep a little bit. Kind of, you feel more comfortable doing that. So yes, I think so. Yeah, I think he's looked good. I think he was my favorite draft pick. Like when we went back and which guy is the guy you like the most? I thought that guy was the guy that really excited me the most coming out and what he could do. And then another rookie, real quick, I wrote about TJ Parker yesterday. Every time I watch TJ Parker, he seems quicker and more, I'm not going to say explosive. Like, remember we talked about this? Like yesterday we talked about this. Not going from like point A to point B, that's part of it. But he just seems like he's more fluid and his footwork is a lot better than I thought coming out of college.
Right. Yeah, we talked a little bit about that yesterday when you were on it. He had made that play, I think, while you were on the air.
Yeah, he did. That's what we were on the air, yeah.
Yeah, the footwork that he showed there. I saw a clip of that same play. He was quick on it for sure. So one more thing, Sal, before we run out of time here. Should we be worried about Tyler Bass because he hasn't kicked yet?
I think he was doing some kicking on the backfield yesterday.
Okay.
And I only say that because here's why. I did not see it. But I went to look for some pictures from yesterday's practice, and there were some pictures posted of, because when we do articles, we got to, we find photos and stuff, and we use different servers. And there were a couple pictures of him kicking, and I'm like, oh, that must have been in the backfield. I'm not positive. I didn't see it. But I would say this: we talked to him at length yesterday. You guys have that if you want to pull any of that. Mm-hmm. We talked to him at length, and he was very confident that he's good, he's fine, he's ready, he's kicking. Last year was tough on him, obviously, but you can listen to all the things he said about it. Listening to him, I'm not worried. I just want to see it. You know what I mean? Like I want to see him kick. I want to see the ball go through the uprights. To be quite honest with you,
yeah.
That's just what you need to see from a kicker. So we'll see about that. I also did ask him, by the way, because Mike Shope has been asking about this for like a couple months. Mm-hmm. The number change. Was there any transaction involved in the number change between him and DJ Moore?
Right.
Tyler Bass's response to me was, that's between me and him.
Oh, we don't get it? Okay. All right.
Now, what does that tell you, though?
It means that there was one.
There's got to be, right?
Definitely. Yeah, I'm disappointed. No, maybe because that was a numerical. It was a number, and are we less likely to find when Zach Benson gave number 9 to Josh Norris? We found out about it because. Owen, do you remember what Benson got? It was.
I believe it was a Louis Vuitton bag.
Yeah,
a travel bag.
Right.
Wow.
Which, could you get any more Benson?
Right. But that's,
you know what? I now that you guys are both there and I'm talking and Owen on this too, I think you guys might have talked about this when it happened. But I played in a golf tournament last week. Zach Hyman's up in Toronto, and I was with Carlo Koliakovo, our buddy from Toronto media, played with the Sabres. And I said, I have to ask you a crazy question. I said, do people really care about Bobrovsky and McKenna and the number? He's 72, right? And he's like, yeah, I said, what do you think about it? I don't know. So I don't know what your take is on it, guys. But what did you think about Bobrovsky saying, no, you're not taking 72. I've had it. And McKenna's like, no, you can have it.
I think if I was Bobrovsky, I would have given it to the kid that's going to be a superstar.
Yeah.
Because I'm 39 years old and I'm going to be out of the league soon. But I do understand why the Stanley Cup champion feels he should be able to keep wearing his number.
Yeah, I get it. I guess if I'm the team, I'm in a weird place, though, aren't I? Because
right.
I know Bobrovsky is a short-term thing here.
Right.
McKenna, you're hoping plays for the team for 20 years.
And people already had McKenna jerseys with that number on it.
And that's the other thing. So I didn't even know that. So what I'm thinking is, if I'm a Toronto Maple Leafs fan and my kid wants a Gavin McKenna jersey, I almost might be tempted to not do it right now, because is there a chance that once Bobrovsky's gone, he switches?
15 to 9 for Jack.
100%.
Similar.
By the way, Carlo's take was he was okay with Bobrovsky keeping the number. Like, yeah, he's Bobrovsky, right? I mean, but he said, yeah, there's a little bit of content about that up in Toronto. Interesting.
Yeah. Interesting.
Like, you got to be a Hall of Famer to do that, but Bobrovsky's a Hall of Famer, so I think he gets to do it.
Was that the only number switch? Other guys just changed numbers to open numbers, I think, right?
Yeah, because Rousseau's wearing 15.
Yeah.
Ray Davis is wearing 7.
7 was vacated by Taron Johnson.
Yeah. So I think that's the only number actual switch. I did actually, I didn't it was kind of informally. I saw DJ Moore for a minute. I told him, and I said, I was talking with players while Paul was at DJ Moore's press conference. So I was hoping to ask DJ Moore the same question. So I kind of saw him in passing. I'm like, I wanted to ask you a question. I just asked Tyler this about, the number switch, if there was a transaction. And he just looked at me with a smirk and kind of just rolled his eyes and walked away. Not in a fun way, you know what I mean? All
right.
So I'm like, there's something going on here, you know what I mean?
Someone get on this. So where's Pablo Torre? Is he busy? I think he might be. All right. Well, thank you, Sal. Appreciate the time, and practice tomorrow, so we'll catch up again on Monday.
All right, guys. You got it. Thanks a lot.
Sal Capaccio on the Western Hotline. It's always game day in Buffalo. He did a full breakdown of practice yesterday as well. You can check that out. I'm trying to stay reserved. It's only a couple people, but I feel like my Caleb Elamzor hype should be pretty high. Like, maybe he could be Matt Milano 2.0, like guy that went in the mid rounds and just became like an amazing linebacker. 3 picks in a row in the middle of the draft that I'm excited about. Can't tell you the last time that's ever happened for the Bills. Skylar Bell, Elamzor, Kilgore all went in a row. We also need to come up with a nickname for Caleb Elamzor because it's way too long of a name to say every time like that. We need a nickname. K-E-O. I don't even like that. Keo?
Keo might work.
Keo? Bad? Let me do a search, see if he already has one. Baker Mayfield. Disrespected. That's what SportsCenter is running with today. He is not happy. Got a fantasy guest coming up at 9. Plenty of time for your phone calls. If you had a thought on an earlier conversation about would losing in the Super Bowl be an acceptable result for you? Or is it literally Super Bowl or bust? Let us know what you think. It's Jeremy and Joe here in WGR. For me, it's all about them winning a championship with this quarterback. And they're also, and if they just don't win it and they lose to the Rams, on some level for me, it's just going to be, okay, it's one more year.
Yeah.
That's one more year where they didn't do it. And, there would also be a lot of fans that would say, making the Super Bowl and losing it will just actually sign me up for even increased heartbreak because I'm even closer to winning it. And if I don't win it there, maybe in some heartbreaking fashion, now I'm going to be living in this dark place for however long after the game, really thinking about like, man, I'm really never going to do it, am I?
Right. I can totally see that. And I think that's where making it is, I think in a vacuum, people our age, Owen, and even you, Joe, like who weren't there for the 4 Super Bowl losses in a row, if they just go a step further and lose, it's not as bad. But for me, I don't think you make this coaching change for me unless you think it can be done, right? And I think that's going to be, if it ends up the same as it was with McDermott, I think that's where the frustration is going to be, where it's where Super Bowl or bust, I think, is coming from. Because you don't make this change unless you think it's going to go up from here. So I think that's where I'm at least. I expect it to, at the least, make it and lose whatever. I don't know how I feel about that in the moment. I don't really want to think about that. But,
right. How it could happen.
Yeah,
of course.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I think if they win the Super Bowl, I mean, they made the right decision. If they don't, I think you're looking at it as why was a change made kind of a thing.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the question I have is, what does bust mean in this context? What's going to happen? Is anything going to change? Because they're not going to fire Brady after 1 year if they don't win the Super Bowl.
And they just promoted the general manager, so I mean that's not an easy fire.
I think the heat would be on for the guy they just promoted.
Yeah.
Into the biggest spot. I think Bean would be feeling it at that point if they no matter what happens, if they don't win, there's going to be heat on him. And my question would just be, what is bust? Just everybody's mad?
Pretty much.
I think everybody's going to be mad no matter what if they don't win. And I think everybody deserves to be and should be. And so if that's the bust, then it is absolutely, to me, Super Bowl or bust.
Yeah.
Because that is why this year feels so unique, I think, in the entirety of the NFL, because how often do you get a rookie head coach that comes in and he has to win the Super Bowl to be praised?
Yeah.
He has to win the Super Bowl in order for all of us, everybody in the Bills fandom, everybody, for us to go like, he did the job. He has to win the championship in his first year.
Right.
And that is massive pressure for a guy.
just getting out here early and just going back and forth like we are today. Constant communication on the field between the 2 days, and we just going to keep building.
That's Bills wide receiver DJ Moore from yesterday. 2 days of training camp down and a day off for the Bills. They're back in action tomorrow for day 3. Defensive coordinator Jim Leonhard also addressed the media yesterday as we are getting the first look at what his defense is going to look like. And he spoke on Ed Oliver's place in the new scheme.
You got to make teams find him. If you know where a guy's going to be, it's a little bit easier for an offense to game plan. The front structures we're going to run, it's going to be more multiple than what they've done here in the past, and that frees up a guy like Ed.
All of the coach and player audio is available to you on demand at WGR550.com. Also, the Bills, they signed wide receiver Dante Pettis, formerly of the Saints, and they released wide receiver Jalen Virgil with a non-football injury designation. Coverage of training camp on WGR presented by Fiegel Car and Joyce, your border attorneys, by Outlet Liquor. When you need to stock up, it's the place to buy a case. What's your outlet? And by the Barnes Firm. Car crash? You've got to call the Barnes Firm. 1-800-8-million. Around the NFL, the Saints, they signed wide receiver Chris Olave to a 4-year, $132 million extension through 2030. The 49ers signed wide receiver Deebo Samuel to a 1-year deal. ESPN's Rich Cimini reports that the Jets coach Aaron Glenn confirmed the team's interest in free agent cornerback Terrion Arnold. And NFL Network's Ian Rappaport reports Shamar Stewart only suffered a hyperextended knee in Wednesday's practice, so a good case scenario there after being carted off. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Joe Cali for Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
Keep in mind, this is one of the guys where tape matches RAS almost perfectly, right? He has an RAS of 9.33.
Yep.
6'2", 234, which is big for modern linebacker standards. Mm-hmm. A 40-inch vertical, which is absurd. 10.4 in the broad, 4.47 in the 40, with a 1.59 10-yard split. Absolutely outrageous. 3-cone of 710, but remember that is a post-workout 3-cone, so we'll give him credit for it being quote-unquote average after his legs were jelly. He is a phenomenal athlete, and when you watch him on tape, which I actually watched him on tape after watching him move at the combine, where I was like, good God, what is that? And then I watched him and I was like, good God, what is that? Because like he is so big and he is so explosive and he is so fluid. And by the time we got to draft night, I was stunned that he made it to pick 126. And for him,
that is Brett Coleman on Caleb Elam-Zor. The hype. He's fast. He's big. He was good in college. What's the problem? Why did he go in the 4th round? That's a question I need to figure out an answer to. Whenever you have too much hype, and I'm doing it about a 4th round or a 5th round pick, I always want to learn, like, okay, why did they go so late then? What was it? And there must have been a good answer to it. Sal actually gave us a little bit of that maybe how he sheds blocks or angles he takes. Like, there's a little bit of cleanup there. But we also need a nickname here, and in the break, he does not have one. There is not one already in place. And I think you're going to have a tough time talking me off of Iron Ore being the nickname for a linebacker who's named Caleb Elam-Zor.
What was that?
Or else.
Or else.
Or else.
Or else.
Like it's a threat?
False.
Right, yeah, exactly. We're threatening.
Yeah.
His nickname is a threat?
False alarm. If he fakes someone out. Oh, he just
but he's
alarm.
He's a linebacker. False alarm would almost be like he ends up being bad.
Right.
Nope, false alarm.
Yeah, that's the title of the YouTube video if he flames out here and never plays.
We'll keep that on the brain there.
Going in the notes.
Yeah, Owen in 5 months. Yeah. I'm going to look up our YouTube page, and like later in the day, it's going to be the graphic. False alarm, as we talk about how he's not playing well.
Never done anything yet.
Oreo.
Is or the only thing we could really play off of here? E-alarms, I mean, like, it kind of sounds like alarm.
It's alarms. Some alarm stuff to be done there.
The alarm clock. But that's not, like, a good nickname.
No.
It's not intimidating. Iron ore. K-E-O. I mean, you just go... I think Keo. Is Keo offensive in any way? Like,
I don't hate
wouldn't
Keo. No,
that he wouldn't like?
I mean...
Keo.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Is he fine with it? That's what really matters.
You know what we're really just going to have to wait for? What is a teammate or a coach going to call him in a press conference? Because that will happen.
Yes. Is it just going to be Caleb?
No, I bet they will have something a little bit more creative than that. I could see them pulling up with a Keo at some point.
All right.
Iron ore.
Now.
Iron ore. That's the one.
Iron ore.
803-0550 is the phone number. Let's go to the phones. Charity in Youngstown. Hey, Charity, how's it going?
Good morning, sir. How are you guys doing this morning?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I've been a Bills fan for 36 years, and I hear all these guys on, got these ESPN shows talking about the offense. But I think Buffalo made a big mistake once again in the offseason, and we should have focused more on defense, like we missed on Myles Garrett. And I don't think we really have enough on the front, the defensive line. Like, we need dogs. Like Seattle Seahawks had dogs. Philadelphia had dogs. Kansas City had dogs, and they won a Super Bowl with, Chris Jones, and they had dogs on the corners. I just don't see that one dog on the D-line or the linebackers. I don't see no one that's really nasty except for the safety we just got, Gardner. He's the only one I see that has that really the nastiness. So I think we're good on offense as long as we have Allen and Cook and decent receivers because we score points in the playoffs. It's the defense that we need to focus on. I just don't see that dog. What do you guys think?
Yeah, thanks for the call. I think they might have more of it than they did. And I don't know, do you need it? I've always taken the approach that if your offense is elite and one of the best 2 or 3 in football, it really does not matter how good your defense ends up being. And that's why I believe the Bills can win the Super Bowl this year. It has nothing to do with how good I think their defense could be. I think their defense could be bottom 10. They could be the 22nd, 23rd ranked defense in the league. And I would still tell you I think they could win the Super Bowl. The Chiefs won the Super Bowl with the 24th ranked defense in the league. So, yeah, they have Chris Jones, but around him, it's not always been rosy. Now, they might have been 24th. That would have been in the regular season. They have a coach in Steve Spagnuolo that is trusted to have the right call at the right time in playoff moments, change it up when he needs to, and that, you could say, is a big difference. And maybe that's Jim Leonard. Maybe the Bills will have the 23rd ranked defense during the regular season, but he'll do a little bit of that Spags thing where in the playoffs he's doing something different or the play call at the right time hits the right way, and that's how you win. But you can win a Super Bowl without having dogs on defense. And when you say dogs on defense, I'm thinking nastiness. And I will say the Bills have been criticized by others, not by me, for not having enough nasty in their defense in recent years, which maybe is partly true.
Yeah.
But do I need that? Do I need to be mean on defense, or can I just be really good on defense?
Yeah, I think you can just be really good. I mean, it helps, and like there's a sort of a, football's a physical, violent game, so it's good to have guys that are willing to be violent, on the football field, ideally.
Yes.
But
thank you.
I think that if you've got guys that are, Benford might be a good example here. Like, would you say that Benford is a dog, D-A-W-G, dog guy? No.
I would not.
He's quiet and reserved, but he's also like a top 10 corner in the league. And I don't need him to be meaner. I need him to be as good as he is. And he's awesome. And that's all I really care about from him.
Yeah.
So dogs is great. And I think you do need a guy or two. And I don't know, would you call C.J. Gardner-Johnson a dog? I think I would say that.
There's some bark there.
No, he's a physical player when he's out there.
Yeah, he's aggressive,
mean, and crazy.
Yeah.
And so, like, listen, I got that guy back there, and like defensive tackles, they're all psychos, guys. Like, I know there's different levels, but like those guys are all ready to go. And they're when the game happens, nobody's out there being nice. It's just not happening. So I don't think I lack that to a point where I'm concerned about it ever with this team.
Yep, me too.
Origami will be interesting to see if he ends up being
Origami.
Wow.
Had to sneak that in.
I think we might just have to go with Keo for this one. If you're on hold, stay there. We'll try to squeak you in before the top of the hour, and then we've got plenty of times open segment for you at 8 o'clock for you to get in as well. On the defense, if you're interested in it, the Super Bowl expectations, we had a conversation about that earlier on today and all that's happening at training camp. We got Scott Pianowski coming up at 9 o'clock on Fantasy. Your phone calls between now and then coming up on WGR. Was reminded that, oh yeah, this is how we do things, where the Bills just don't really want to talk about expectations. Even Bean, the coach, I get it. The players, I get it. Even Bean, when asked about it, like gave the same line, like, yeah, we're just worried about tomorrow, day to day. Like they are on that message whenever high expectations, Super Bowl expectations are brought up. And I was wondering about whether this is truly, for Bills fans, Super Bowl or bust. Like, literally, Super Bowl or bust. Because that gets said, that gets thrown around a lot, but does everybody really mean it? Because there is still things they haven't done. And it is year one of a new head coach that might have there be some acceptable results along the way that wouldn't end in them lifting a Lombardi trophy and have you going at the end of the year. All right, first year with Joe Brady, and that went, all right, I liked what I saw, and that went really well. And to me, Super Bowl or bust literally means if they don't win the Super Bowl, I don't really care otherwise where the season ended. They didn't win the Super Bowl. And that's all within the context of Josh Allen is 30 now, and how many more of these runs at it am I going to have, because it's one fewer now. And that is kind of where I live. I don't know that I love that I live there, because I do think it makes it harder to enjoy moments along the way. But that's just kind of where I've arrived, and I know other fans have too. But I guess what that would ask of fans is then, there's no room underneath Super Bowl for this season to be a success to you, because that would be they make the Super Bowl and don't win it. Is that a success to fans? How many fans would that be a success to? Like, I put a poll up wondering what the percentage will end up being, and so far it's pretty split. Like, is that a success? Because they haven't done it. Got some tickets to give away right here. Caller 5 right now at 716-221-4WGR. Pair of tickets to Blues, Traveler, Gin Blossoms, and Spin Doctors on August 18th at the Erie County Fair. Tickets on sale now at ecfair.org. Says for a chance to win. Chance to win or win? Do we know?
If they win the contest, they get the tickets.
Okay.
If they get in.
I see.
If they're caller number 5, the tickets are theirs.
Gotcha. There you go. Thank you. Don't have time, Joe, to get to your call here if you're on hold. We'll start the next segment with you, I promise. Understand if you can't hang on. But more to your phone calls next. Training camp continues. No practice today. I also want to get into some around the league stuff, but we will spend time on our earlier poll, which I'll update the results of. Would you consider the Bills making the Super Bowl and not winning it a success? Because I would not. And I think fans are a little bit split on that. It's a very specific outcome. Plus, your Caleb Elam's or nickname ideas, because we need one. It's Jeremy and Joe here on WGR. For me, it's all about them winning a championship. So, Sal, on yesterday's practice, and the Bills did make a very minor roster move, Dante Pettis at wide receiver. You know, the fantasy sickos will remember Dante Pettis, Sal, from years ago, because he was a second-round pick that had a good rookie year with the Niners, and there was a lot of hype after that good rookie year, and he really never did anything in the league after that receiving, but he's been in the league for 7 years. I'm not thinking about him making the Bills roster, but that was more of a he's still playing 7 years after he kind of disappeared, but here he is.
Yeah.
So
this will be his 31-year-old season.
Right.
I remember even going back then when it was probably around 2021 when Bills fans were like, hey, what about Dante Pettis? You know, because he had put a little work in the league, right, for a couple of years, and he was a free agent. But, I mean, yeah, it hasn't been great since. Now, a few years ago, he did have, 245 yards. It doesn't sound like anything, but that was well topping what he had done the previous couple of years, all combined. So it's more about this move to me. The reactions I got when it was announced the Bills did this were mostly, why aren't they signing Brandon Cooks, right? It's, why are they signing Dante Pettis and not Brandon Cooks?
Mm-hmm.
I'll try my best to explain. Now, again, these are things that I just try to explain to people. You don't have to agree or disagree, but this is how teams operate, most teams, and this is how the Bills are operating in this situation, basically. Brandon Cooks is the kind of player that they're not going to sign him unless they need a receiver, like in their top half of their group. That's the kind of player you're not just bringing in to kind of compete for you to have a few reps at the bottom of the roster. You want to call it a camp body. I don't love those words because I think all people have a chance to make the roster. You don't bring in Brandon Cooks to be a camp body. You bring in Brandon Cooks because you need a receiver, and you plug and play, and he's going to be on your roster. And you make a bit of an investment. Now, it doesn't mean it's a lot of money. It could be even, closer to the minimum than a huge deal. That's fine. But if you bring in Brandon Cooks, he's playing over some of your guys that, quite frankly, they want to see through. They want to know what they have in Moore, Shakir, Coleman, Palmer, Bell. I would say those are the 5.
just getting out here early and just going back and forth like we are today. Constant communication on the field between the 2 days, and we just going to keep building.
That's Bills wide receiver DJ Moore from yesterday. 2 days of training camp down and a day off today for the Bills. They're back in action tomorrow for day 3. Defensive coordinator Jim Leonard addressed the media yesterday as we're getting a first look at his defense and spoke on Ed Oliver's place in the new scheme.
You got to make teams find him. If you know where a guy's going to be, it's a little bit easier for an offense to game plan. The front structures we're going to run, it's going to be more multiple than what they've done here in the past, and that frees up a guy like Ed.
All the coach and player audio is available to you on demand at WGR550.com. Also, the Bills signed wide receiver Dante Pettis, formerly of the Saints, and they released wide receiver Jalen Virgil with a non-football injury designation. Coverage of training camp on WGR presented by Fiegel Car and Joyce, your border attorneys, by Outlet Liquor. When you need to stock up, it's the place to buy a case. What's your outlet? And by the Barnes Firm. Car crash? You've got to call the Barnes Firm. 1-800-8-million. Around the NFL, the Saints, they signed wide receiver Chris Olave to a 4-year, $132 million extension through 2030. And the 49ers, they signed wide receiver Deebo Samuel to a 1-year deal. Join Sal Capaccio from 4 to 7 at the Wings Flights of Hope barbecue fundraiser on Saturday at the Wings Meeting Place on California Road. The event goes until 11 p.m., which means you'll enjoy a full evening of live music, beer, food, basket raffles, and summertime fun, all to raise money for Wings Flights of Hope. Tickets are $35 pre-sale. You can get all the info at wingsflights.org. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Joe Cali for Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
I think it shocks some people, for me to be this big, to keep up with receivers, and matching tight ends all the way down the field. Some people are surprised because, not too many defensive linemen doing that. So for them to just see it and to see I can do it, it just makes me more valuable to be able to do a lot more in defense. So.
T.J. Parker, fast, big and fast defensive end for the Bills. He's looked good at camp so far. Really, though, so that we're not always in the best shape of your life season with everything. Should ask this to Sal. Maybe I'll get to it. We'll get to it on Monday. I also always want to make sure to ask and know who's struggling. Because if the answer is nobody, then I'm less likely to believe that all the hype at camp is like, oh, everybody looks great. DJ Moore looks unbelievable, and TJ Parker looks unbelievable, and Elam Zora looks unbelievable. Everybody looks unbelievable. Someone's got to be struggling. They're practicing against each other, right? DJ Moore is getting open against someone, right? If he's thriving and he's getting open, who's he getting open against?
I saw one was D. Alford that he was pointing back at.
Oh, right.
He was going into the end zone.
Sal mentioned earlier he slipped on one of the plays.
Yeah, I think so.
But he's making more than just that one play.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the thing with camp. It's always if someone's doing something well, someone is falling on their face.
And we don't often hear about that. Not often. We sometimes do. But, when Kyrie Elam was struggling at his first couple training camps, we knew about it. James Cook breaks off a 50-yard run at practice the other day. Mm-hmm. They're not in pads, so there's no contact. But someone messed up on the defense there.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Who was it? No idea. I just, to stay fair and objective, I want to just make sure it's not 100% everyone's great, everyone looks great, everyone's amazing. There's got to be just a little bit of the other side, and I don't know that I have a name for you right now, like who might not be doing. The only negative thing we've really found out about is that Keon Coleman dropped the first pass of camp, but
I listened
sounds like he's been fine since.
To a little bit of Perino with my old man yesterday, and the only name he mentioned was Corbett, but he said, I don't really care because the linemen aren't in pads.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really
it's not going to
matter to me. He said, I'm not even writing about it. I just have noticed that he's struggled the first couple days, but without them doing the actual job, I just don't put any stock into it. So that's also a part of it, I think, is that it's easy to go like, oh, well, that was a cool play from that guy, and then it's also very easy to go, well, this isn't real yet, so that didn't matter.
We're still in the so-called pajama party
until
the pads come out.
Austin Corbett, who has a Super Bowl ring.
Correct.
Oh,
He was
yeah.
on the Rams.
That's right. I forgot about that.
How hard would it be? Probably too hard. There are 5 Bills that have Super Bowl rings. There are also 5 Bills that have national championship rings.
Okay. They're not?
That's a tougher list, I think.
Yeah.
Could you name one?
Ooh. National championship rings.
Yeah. 4 of them are impossible. There's only really one I think you would probably hit. Unless you if you knew expertly the college of every Bill, then maybe you'd know that Tommy Doman, the Bills punter, went to Michigan.
Right.
And he's won the national championship.
Oh, Cook went to Georgia,
Cook.
right?
Yes,
They had
James
to have won
Cook.
one
James
when he was
Cook.
there, right?
He won the national championship. Cedric Van Pran Granger, he was also at Georgia.
Okay.
sure.
Zion Logue was also at Georgia.
Crazy. Okay.
Fedarian Mathis won it at Alabama in 2020. And then there are 5 Bills that have won the Super Bowl. One of them is Corbat.
Right.
And then there are 3 former Chiefs.
McCole Hardman.
Right.
McCole Hardman.
Who are the other Chiefs?
Hardman won 3 Super Bowls with
Right,
the
he was
Chiefs.
there for
These
all
other
of them.
2 have won 2 Super Bowls with the Chiefs.
Who was on the Chiefs on the Bills right now? That I'm not.
We're talking bottom of the roster.
of the roster?
Mike Dana
That's who it was.
Okay.
I knew it.
Yes.
and Shane Buechele.
Oh,
That's
right. Right. Of course.
And then there's one more Ram, Michael Hoyt.
Hoyt.
Yeah.
So 5 Super Bowl champions and 5
Could have got there on Hoyt.
national championship winners. Before we get back into our Bills conversation from earlier, I need a ruling.
Okay.
This is either an amazing nickname idea. We're trying to, along the way here on today's show, the hype on Caleb Elam-Zor is up. And I'm getting a little bit too excited, I think, for a 4th-round rookie. But I think we need a nickname because he's got a pretty long name. And Keo, just go initials, simple. You can call him Keo, maybe. I think Iron Ore was an idea. Jeremy had a great idea, but he's got to wear number 5 for it. 5 Alarm.
That's a great idea.
5 Alarm is a great name, but he's got to wear number 5. Number 5 is currently worn by Josh Palmer.
Right.
It's occupado.
So
We'll see how much longer, potentially, but
yeah, right. Like, listen, that could be a number change at the end of camp. That happens where a guy wears one number at camp, and 5 became available because Josh Palmer didn't make the team because he got hurt again.
Sweet.
I'll take 5.
yeah.
What do you wear in college?
3.
Yeah, he wore 3.
3 Alarm.
It's not.
Not as good.
No.
Not as
you
good.
need 5 Alarm. You need it to be that.
David tweets in,
Oh, boy.
is it great or is it terrible?
Ooh.
Eeyore.
Oh. I
It's
kind of love it.
perfect play off his name, but Eeyore, if you are a Winnie the Pooh fan or know of it, was like the old depressed donkey,
Yes.
which that's not really inspiring.
Who lost his tail all the time. I don't know if we want him losing his tail
I
out there.
don't remember that part of it.
Maybe I'm.
That's right.
Oh, yeah, you would have to pin the tail. Yeah, it used to be a thing you would do at, like, birthday parties.
He's a pessimistic donkey. That can't be.
Yeah.
No,
But it also is so perfect off his last name, Eeyore.
Right.
I mean, it's the same thing as Oreo. It's just the other way around.
Well, it's not the same thing as Oreo. It's the opposite.
Right. It works because his name goes in that order.
And there is like a. You're right. The reference doesn't work, but I kind of like it. I think I like it.
There's something about it
Eeyore?
that itches a scratch.
It does work.
You know what it is? It's quick.
Yeah.
And that's really what we're shooting for here, right? Like just a quicker way to say Caleb Elam-Zor.
Right. I'd like to maybe hear him talk, and then I'll maybe decide if we can fit Eeyore onto him.
If he sounds
if he sounds a little, Milano-y or like just quiet sort of guy, then I think maybe we're good.
If he's a dog, though, like we're talking about, if he's chirpy, everything, it's not Eeyore's not going to fit.
No.
I think this is a possibility for like what his teammates would call him.
Mm-hmm.
Eeyore?
Yeah.
That's a locker room nickname.
It's just the first
we're approaching
initial
on it.
The second name, yeah. And then the last name.
All right, we'll keep that into consideration. I think Keo or Keo might be the one.
The favorite.
Right now, though. 803-0550 is the phone number. Bills are practicing tomorrow. back on the field, and we will continue to track that along the way. And they're healthy so far. A lot of teams around the league have not been healthy. And, I mean, I've got so many negative storylines around camps this year that I feel like I'm not used to. Normally, this is kind of what I just said about how Bills camp is going. Well, everybody's great. Everybody's looking good, and everything's perfect. That's normally what you get. But, man, I got the Niners. The Niners, they have a curse. They must. I mean, we know they have the electrical station, right? The electrical substation.
Yeah.
But this team cannot ever stay healthy. And here is their number 1/2 receiver. Shows up to camp after rehabbing a PCL injury, a similar injury, or maybe the same injury that Dalton Kincaid has dealt with. And bam, his knee starts swelling. And now they're talking about surgery. Like, they have to decide, okay, we can either do with him what we just did in the last few months, which is continue to rest and rehab. Well, we just did that. So if we do that for another month, is it just going to happen again?
Right.
Or we could have surgery, and we take him out for how long? That's a brutal spot to be in for Ricky Pearsall, who's a player that they were probably wanting to count on a lot. So what do they have to do? We have to pay $7 million to bring Deebo Samuel back.
Right.
They have cap space, so maybe that's not as bad for them. But they got to go out in the open market, pay money, and bring a guy back who's definitely past his prime. Arizona, Marvin Harrison Jr. just
crap.
Cannot catch a football.
No, he can't. I don't know what's going on
Videos
there.
are absurd.
If you're an Arizona fan, I'd be horrified.
And the coach is refusing to give a full workload to his top draft pick rookie running back, Jeremiah Love, because, well, we traded for Tyler Algier. So, we got to give him carries.
Yeah, he looks like a rookie. Okay.
So that's not going well there. And if you're in Tampa, Baker Mayfield, talked about this a little bit earlier, man, I am in panic mode if I'm a Buccaneers fan, because it sounds like my starting quarterback is furious with the organization, and I've only got him under contract for, I think, one more year.
Yeah.
He's going to take like a torch to the locker room.
They offered him reportedly a 2-year deal or something like that. It was something short-term.
Right.
It was not a long-term deal.
Honestly, if I'm Baker Mayfield, if that is what my team is coming to me with, I think that is a slap in the face. Yeah. Like, I know I am not Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, but, man, I was in the MVP conversation in the last 2 years. I had the most passing touchdowns in football in a 2-year period, and my record here is a winning record, and we have made the playoffs in 2 of the 3 seasons that I have been here. Okay, again, I know I'm not Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes, but come on.
Is he Jordan Love?
That's pretty good.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not worthy of an extension. Mayfield is very good, and I think he is in that Darnold territory. I think he's better than Sam Darnold, but he's in that tier of, no, he's not Allen-like where he can lift everything up himself and you can win a Super Bowl every year just because he exists. He's not that good, but he is, I think he is certainly good enough where if you have a good team around him, it's a great team around him, yeah, you can win the Super Bowl. If your defense is great and you have really good receivers and a good run game, you can win the Super Bowl with Baker Mayfield as your quarterback the same way Seattle just did it with Sam Darnold. Why? They had an elite defense, they had an elite receiver, they had a pretty good run game, and that was enough to get Darnold to win you a Super Bowl.
Right.
Mayfield has that in him. Not all quarterbacks do. I think there are maybe a dozen at most, and that would be my cutoff. If you told me that Kyler Murray, where do I really want to put this cutoff? Like, there would be guys where I'd say, yeah, I wouldn't offer him more than a 2-year deal. Like, maybe that would be
Bryce Young.
I might say that was Stroud right now.
C.J. Stroud. Yes, that's what I would say.
Stroud, if I were a team, I'd say, yeah, I'm not really doing this. I don't want to do a long-term deal right now. I don't want to do a big long-term extension. But to me, if Mayfield is the one coming to you for that, I'm in. I think Tampa's nuts for not being willing to pay him a long-term extension as their franchise quarterback. I don't know. I think he's a great quarterback, right? Like, over 8 years in the NFL, 63% passer. He averages 232 yards a game, 197 touchdowns, 101 picks.
It's played through torn labrums.
Mm-hmm.
All of it.
He's made the playoffs in both Cleveland and in Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, is he elite? Probably not. But I don't know. I think
he's fringe. I think if he plays really well in Tampa for this season, I think he could start to maybe enter that conversation if it's becoming a consistent thing where he's doing kind of crazy things out there. You know?
But I think he's exactly what he is, and this is just what he is, and that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't need. For me, I if I was deciding whether or not to pay him, I don't know what else he needs to prove to me, because I don't think there's that much more of a ceiling than what you saw, say, 2 years ago with him with the Bucks.
Mm-hmm.
He was really good. Last year was a little wonky.
Up and down.
But he was injured last year,
right?
Right,
He was hurt.
Tore muscle in his shoulder
again, just like Cleveland, and he played through it.
Right.
So.
Maybe that's the problem that the Bucks are having. Like, you've had 2 shoulder problems in your career already.
Yeah. And that's fair, but my thought would be, like, I know exactly what this guy is, and it's exactly what you said, Sneaky. This guy's pretty good, and if not very good. And if we get him into a good situation environment-wise, we're going to be good. And that is not something that you find in every guy you draft. And that is valuable. And for me, if I was running a team and I knew I didn't have an elite guy, I would rather live in a world where I've got to build a good team around my quarterback and have that quarterback than I'm now in quarterback no man's land, and I've got, Justin Fields, and then I've got, whatever.
You're
Geno
calling
Smith
Russell
the next
Wilson out of
year,
retirement.
And Russell, that's not where I want to be. I would rather live in a world where I'm paying Baker Mayfield $5 million more than I think he's probably actually worth for that stability. And I think that is a better way to run your team than I'm going to go see if I can solve the quarterback problem with, discount.
It's the same thing we talk about the Bills to a lesser extent, where Josh Allen's that, like you said, pillar of consistency, like last week, I think. And Baker is a floor for them, I think, that, like you said, keeps them at a fine place where they don't have to worry about it.
Last year they won 8 games, and he was injured, and the team around him wasn't that great, and they still won 8 games, and were in it at the last week of the season. Now, they were in it to make the playoffs last week of the season because the division was so terrible.
Mm-hmm. They were like that with Tom Brady, too, though. They weren't crazy down there. They weren't winning double-digit games in a year.
Brady's last year, I think he won 9 games.
Yeah, they were just over 500.
And no, they did not win 9. They won the same amount of games, 8 and 9.
Yeah, so they were under 500, but even with Brady.
Division's bad. Yeah, and the other reason that this story is very interesting to me is not just because I think Mayfield is like the perfect quarterback debate guy where he's kind of right on the line of really good franchise quarterback to, I think I could do better than that. He's good for this. He's also being very open about it, which is not normal.
No.
He has said... Basically, he's given the details. Mayfield was talking with, I think it was Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, that, he wanted a deal longer than 2 years. He wanted to join the $50 million club for quarterbacks, and that the Bucs were very far away from that. And that he believes he warrants a contract similar to Jordan Love, Trevor Lawrence, and Brock Purdy. And when those are the 3 names you bring up, again, that's where I'm like, he's as good as all 3 of those guys. I would say Jordan Love is probably better than all of them.
Yeah.
But
I think I agree with that. But
he's not saying Mahomes. He's not saying Josh Allen. He's not going to the top of the top.
But Love makes $55 million a year. Is Baker asking for $52.5? Is that realistic for him?
If the $50 million is really the goal, 51 would probably do it, right? Like, you got to think about it like
and
that.
And if the Bucs are offering,
45 or 40.
45, then you're in a bad spot, and you're far apart.
There were 12 quarterbacks in the league this year that make $50 million per year on their contract. It would have been 13 if Tua hadn't been cut. Or Tua had 50. But Mahomes, Dak, Burrow, Allen, Love, Lawrence, Stafford, Goff, Purdy, Herbert, Jackson, Hurts.
Yeah.
I mean, really, what is Tampa offering that's far away from 50? Are they offering 40? That's what Daniel Jones got.
I mean, yeah.
There's really not many quarterbacks that live in that world. Like
Darnold's at 33.5.
Yeah, like below that, you're getting to guys that are very temporary starters or are rookies.
Mm-hmm.
There are not many guys that are making sub $50 million that are.
No.
Yeah, and he also has said like they're going to pay for it next year. If I have a great year,
then they're.
I'm asking for more than 50.
Right, I'm going to bury them.
Right,
as he should.
I'm also just looking at this list of quarterback contracts and looking at Mahomes at 64 and then Josh at 55. Like, that's pretty good.
So whatever, that's just 3 teams. But again, like the Bills camp, it's all roses right now. Like everything's good. Everybody's pretty much healthy, knock on wood. And there's really not a lot of negative reports about guys that just don't get it or aren't playing well. And normally this is the time of year where everything is good with teams. But you've got a few around the league that you're not feeling great. Atlanta I didn't bring up. Atlanta, I think Tua got back to practice yesterday.
He was off to the side doing stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if he was in practice.
I saw a video. It's day 2 of camp. And Matt Ryan, who retired a few years ago and is the president of the team now.
He's throwing passes?
He had to throw passes to the receivers.
Are you serious? I didn't see this yesterday.
He was out there practicing throwing balls to the receivers in like individual drills because they only had one quarterback available.
Oh man.
I forgot.
I saw the memes
too.
going around of the longest yard where Burt Reynolds goes in at the end, the coach.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh, this would be funny if this actually ends up happening." I didn't know it actually happened.
Who is another team that things aren't good? That's the list I think so far.
Teams aren't going well for them. Carolina.
Again, the Niners. The Niners probably feel like, can we ever catch a break? Kittle is hurt, and now Pearsall is hurt. Our coach has got 40 stitches in his face. Like,
yeah.
The substation. They're cursed. The Niners and the Chargers, those are the 2 cursed teams. They just cannot ever stay healthy, no matter who is the coach or the players. It doesn't matter.
That bond between Harbaugh and McDaniel, that might do some magical things for the Chargers.
Yeah, I do like that part, though. Bills camp, we'll talk more about it coming up. We have Scott Pianowski. We'll talk lots of Bills with him coming up at 9. Your Caleb Elam's or nickname ideas. Hamlin gets released. He switches to 3, and it's K30.
Oh. Oh, I like that.
Sure.
What is that? Just because of the backwards E?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's the 3. Yeah.
You can still call him Keo. He was 3.
Oh, I like the Jim with a very good defense of the Eeyore nickname. It's perfect because Eeyore brings everybody down.
There you go.
Love it.
That's actually great.
Thank you for giving me a reason to like it. Thor has been introduced as an idea.
Thor.
Just
why?
Thor.
Just
Thor. That's it.
I guess the or. It's.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
You know what? Thank you for picking up on that because me and Owen did not.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
Okay. That
Thor.
makes sense. Thank you. Yes.
Bring the hammer down. Thor.
I still like Iron Ore. See, but that's not. I think Eeyore is more like something you could refer to him like in a normal conversation.
Sure.
We're like, oh, did you see the game Iron Ore had yesterday?
That's a little.
I don't love that. That's a T-shirt idea at most.
Yeah.
803-0550 is the phone number for your phone calls. I got a hockey thing I want to get to quickly, but we'll do that a little bit later on in the show. We talked about the Super Bowl earlier on today, and would losing in the Super Bowl feel like a success to you? Or is it literally Super Bowl or bust? It would be another year without winning it, but it would also be further than they've gone, and it's a very specific outcome, but I'm very much not, I don't know that I care that if it happens in the AFC Championship or the Super Bowl, but I feel like there's some differing opinions on that. We'll have Scott coming up at 9. Stay tuned. Joe DiBiase with Joe Kelly, Owen Parker. Jeremy's off today. This is WGR. So, Sal, on yesterday's practice, and the Bills did make a very minor roster move, Dante Pettis at wide receiver. You know, the fantasy sickos will remember Dante Pettis, Sal, from years ago because he was a second-round pick that had a good rookie year with the Niners, and there was a lot of hype after that good rookie year, and he like really never did anything in the league after that receiving, but he's been in the league for 7 years. I'm not thinking about him making the Bills roster, but that was more of a he's still playing 7 years after he kind of disappeared, but here he is.
Yeah.
So
this will be his 31-year-old season.
Right.
I remember even going back then when it was probably around 2021 when Bills fans were like, hey, what about Dante Pettis? Because he had put a little work in the league, right?
Yeah.
For a couple of years, and he was a free agent. But I mean, yeah, it hasn't been great since. Now, a few years ago, he did have, 245 yards. It doesn't sound like anything, but that was well topping what he had done the previous couple of years, all combined. So it's more about this move to me. The reactions I got when it was announced the Bills did this were mostly, why aren't they signing Brandon Cooks, right? It's, why are they signing Dante Pettis and not Brandon Cooks?
Mm-hmm.
I'll try my best to explain. Now, again, these are things that I just try to explain to people. You don't have to agree or disagree, but this is how teams operate, most teams, and this is how the Bills are operating in this situation, basically. Brandon Cooks is the kind of player that they're not going to sign him unless they need a receiver, like in their top half of their group. That's the kind of player you're not just bringing in to kind of compete for you to have a few reps at the bottom of the roster. You want to call it a camp body. I don't love those words because I think all people have a chance to make the roster. But you don't bring in Brandon Cooks to be a camp body. You bring in Brandon Cooks because you need a receiver and you plug and play, and he's going to be on your roster. And you make a bit of an investment. Now, it doesn't mean it's a lot of money. It could be even, closer to the minimum than a huge deal. That's fine. But if you bring in Brandon Cooks, he's playing over some of your guys that, quite frankly, they want to see through. They want to know what they have in Moore, Shakir, Coleman, Palmer, Bell. I would say those are the five.
Just getting out here early and just going back and forth like we are today. Constant communication on the field between the 2 days, and we just going to keep building.
That's Bills wide receiver DJ Moore from yesterday. 2 days of training camp down and a day off for the Bills. They're back in action tomorrow for day 3. Defensive coordinator Jim Leonard also addressed the media yesterday, so we're getting a first look at his defense and spoke on Ed Oliver's place in the new scheme.
You got to make teams find him. If you know where a guy's going to be, it's a little bit easier for an offense to game plan. The front structures we're going to run, it's going to be more multiple than what they've done here in the past, and that frees up a guy like Ed.
All of the coach and player audio available to you on demand at WGR550.com. Also, the Bills, they signed wide receiver Dante Pettis, formerly of the Saints, and they released wide receiver Jalen Virgil with a non-football injury designation. Coverage of training camp on WGR presented by Fiegel Car and Joyce, your border attorneys, by Outlet Liquor. When you need to stock up, it's the place to buy a case. What's your outlet? And by the Barnes Firm. Car crash, you've got to call the Barnes Firm. 1-800-8-million. Around the NFL, the Saints, they signed wide receiver Chris Olave to a 4-year, $132 million extension through 2030. The 49ers, they signed wide receiver Deebo Samuel to a 1-year deal. And ESPN's Rich Cimini reports that the Jets coach Aaron Glenn confirmed his team's interest in free agent cornerback Terrion Arnold. And NFL Network's Ian Rappaport reports Shamar Stewart only suffered a hyperextended knee in Wednesday's practice. Good scenario there as he was carted off. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Joe Cowley for Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I've told you guys I've been pretty upfront and honest about my feelings about Tampa. It being home for now our family. We're raising kids here. We love it here. I wanted the deal done and set the deadline and told them it was going to be all ball after that, and I did mean that. And I don't know if they thought I was just going to take some of the offers that they gave, but I'm at the point of my career and understanding what I've brought to this franchise. One, I'm very, very thankful for the chance they gave me. Do not get me wrong on that. But I've also I really know what I've brought to this franchise, leadership-wise, and even play-wise. It's been some of the best years of my career, and I think it's only going to trend upwards, just being comfortable and feeling that. So disappointing in that regard to not have, to feel disrespected a little bit.
That's Mayfield. Baker Mayfield not happy with the Bucs and the way contract negotiations are going. We'll get back to the Bills. Some things from training camp yesterday that happened that we have not brought up yet in a moment, but let's get to some phone calls first. We've got Scott Pianowski coming up at 9 o'clock for a little bit of our fantasy flavor here on a Friday, and we'll do a lot of Bills with him as well. But big days for Jalen Kilgore and Caleb Elamzor, some of the Bills rookies. Feel like the middle three. Skylar Bell, Elamzor, and Kilgore are three guys that I'm all pretty excited about for being mid-round picks. 803-0550 is the phone number. Let's go to Jim next. Hey, Jim. Jim, you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead. You're on the air.
Hey, good morning, guys. Love the number one. Love the show.
Thank you.
Listen to you every morning from Ithaca, New York. So,
thank you.
Long-time Bills fan, 1960, man. I'm telling you, man. I've been through everything with this team. I love your take this morning, though. I'm kind of connecting dots. I mean, Sam Darnold, Seattle Seahawks, win the Super Bowl. Okay, it's not all Darnold. Obviously, they had great coaching. And my worst fear would be something like Baker Mayfield to the Houston Texans. Can you imagine? I don't think the coaching staff's that good there necessarily. He's great defensively, but they've got receivers, they got defense, they got running backs. Can you imagine a middle-of-the-road quarterback like Mayfield in Houston? All of a sudden, they would leapfrog Denver. They'd leapfrog New England. They'd probably leapfrog Kansas City. Mm-hmm. They'd be probably our toughest competition for the AFC. So, yeah. How many Super Bowls would Houston win if Josh Allen was their quarterback?
Oh, if you just plugged him in right now, I mean, they would be the favorite every single year. I mean, the Bills are already kind of the favorite a lot, but their defense is historically good. So,
and there's a little bit of a critique on Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott. I love everything they've done with the Bills. I love the culture. I love everything. But guess what? Beane has not put the team around Allen that he deserves to win a Super Bowl, and McDermott could not get it done on defense. I love McDermott. I was sorry to see him go, but, we can't be giving up 30 points a game in playoff games and expect Allen to overcome all the damn time. So
Yeah.
love you guys.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Jim, for the call. I don't disagree about the roster part of it that I think the Bills had for a few years. They had a roster good enough to win the Super Bowl. There was a time there where they had all of it at the same time. They had the quarterback, they had the defense, they had the weapons, and they just blew it. And that is, until they win one, it kind of is unforgivable. Like the Chiefs were not, to me, I know they won 4 playoff games. The Chiefs were not that much better than the Bills. That they should have won 4 in a row playoff games against you and won 3 Super Bowls while the Bills sit here with 0. They were actually built very similarly. Like, the Chiefs had elite quarterbacks. So did the Bills. Okay? The Bills had a great defense. So did the Chiefs. Even the Chiefs, Sean McDermott and the 13 seconds game. Yeah, that is a mind-blowing crash at the end that should not have happened. And you allowed a 75-yard touchdown right before that. But the Kansas City Chiefs in that same game with Spagnuolo, who is seen as, and I said it too, the reputation of he's going to have the right calls in the moments when you need him the most, no matter how good his defense is. But yet, in that 13 seconds game, his defense allowed a touchdown on 4th and 13 against Josh Allen at the 2-minute warning. His defense allowed Josh Allen to drive down the field again with a minute left and score another touchdown to take the lead. And then he didn't have to go back on the field again. The only thing that stopped Steve Spagnuolo that day in the Chiefs' defense from being scapegoated was that they won a coin toss. That's it. So, even that, is that a difference? Because our defensive coach melted that day, but didn't theirs kind of do the same thing?
Right. You have to say yes, but it's just the end result was what it was, and so one guy gets it and the other doesn't.
And they had a pretty lackadaisical run game throughout all those years in Kansas City. So did the Bills. They had a premier target in Kelsey. So did the Bills in Diggs. You just lost.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think that is where a lot of frustration is looking back. It does feel like they should have one already. And if they had won one, and we'd be sitting here today with a roster that's not that impressive, it's better than it was last year, but not that impressive, then it'd just kind of be like, all right, that's fine. Well, I got one, and every year I've got a chance at it, so let's have some fun. It just, everything would be so much different and better and less anxious and less pressure and stress and all of it. Because with the talent they have at quarterback and without the hardware, all of that has to be there. The pressure, the stress, it has to. In a city that has not won a championship, it's a very unique environment. But that's where we've arrived, and I think it will only increase every year that passes. But I will say that, that Bean commentary, I'm actually, while I'm not a fan of how the roster has been constructed, especially financially, in the last couple of years, and my biggest problem has been with the roster, there just aren't enough blue chip guys, needle movers, not enough great players. Too many good players, not enough great players. And I feel like this draft class has not played yet on the field. But I'm already hearing more optimism about this draft class than I feel like I did at any point last year.
I
Last
agree.
year, we were 3 weeks into training camp, and I remember asking Sal at one point, does Lane Jackson exist? I haven't heard his name one time.
Mm-hmm.
And here, like, we're day 2 of camp, and it's, Elamzor, Kilgore, Bell. Maybe we're not doing with Jude Bowery and even Igbinosin, who are their second and third picks in that draft. But I don't know. I feel like this draft class could end up being the one. So I know it's really early. We're 2 practices in. They haven't even played preseason games yet.
Yeah.
But they've had favorable analysis about what they did.
Yeah, I was just going to say, in those 2 practices, you've, like you said, heard more positive about this draft class than you have out of the entirety of training camp the last 2 seasons out of the draft classes. So, yeah, it is going to make you feel like that, I think, right?
And how many times have we talked about, like, looked back at years where, the Eagles drafted this guy, and this guy, or the Chiefs drafted this guy, and this guy this year, and that set them up.
Yeah.
And then they won because they had 3 guys that were on rookie deals that were playing significant roles for them.
Mm-hmm.
And if this is a draft class that produces 1, 2, 3 of those guys, then, that's something that this team has not had for quite some time. Every year, the draft class has been sort of, all right, well, this guy's going to be a guy. This is, Hairston last year, Bishop the year before. Like, all these players come in and it's like, okay, this guy's got potential, but he's not going to do anything for you now.
Yeah.
And if we get one guy to do something now that really matters, that would be significant and an addition.
That is where I like that point. That really you can undo multiple years of poor drafting really in one big draft class. And yeah, there are several teams that have been set up to contend by one draft class. The Chiefs won their 3rd Super Bowl because they nailed one draft class big time.
Mm-hmm.
They had, in the 2022 draft, they drafted Trent McDuffie, George Karlaftis, Brian Cook, Leo Chenal, and Isaiah Pacheco, and Jalen Watson. They drafted, is that 5 starters?
Yeah.
Including McDuffie, who's incredible.
Pro.
Watson, who was very good for a while. Same with Chenal. They basically built it back up in 1 year.
Right.
The Lions in one draft class in 2023. Gibbs, Jack Campbell, Sam Laporta, Brian Branch.
Yeah.
Set you up. The Eagles have had a couple of them. The one that was probably the most recent was 2024 when they went Quinyon Mitchell, elite corner. Cooper DeJean in the 2nd round. Incredible safety.
Yep.
They got another starter a little bit later on. But the Bills, when's the last time they've had a draft class like that where we're talking, 4 guys that you really brought in that are making big contributions? The last time you probably would go to for that would be 2022. Cook, Bernard, Shakir,
Yes.
and Benford.
Yeah. That's good.
That's pretty good. Since then, 23 wasn't that. 24 wasn't that. 25 is not done for that.
Right.
But
Deion
you would need Hairston, Deion Walker, and Sanders to all really hit for you.
Yeah.
And at the moment,
Sanders doesn't look like that's going to
one of those
happen.
guys has 1.5.
Right. You want to do Walker and say,
Hairston.
Hairston looked okay aside from getting hurt. This year will really be the year you get to make a decision on that, or not a decision, but you get to sort of see what that really looks like.
And in this draft class, like, I think Igbinosin's kind of a wild card, but man, if you have a draft where 3 of those middle round guys hit, this could be that same type of draft class that the Lions have had, the Eagles have had, the Chiefs have had, other teams have had too that have been contending for Super Bowls, and those teams don't have Josh Allen.
No.
Rob in Connecticut before the break. Hey, Rob.
Hey, Joe. How you doing?
Morning.
Hey, listen, first off, I want to thank WGR for covering the training camp. I'm enjoying it. And, yes, it's still early to predict anything. As far as the nickname, I have a funny thing going on inside my head. I hear Chris Browning saying about shut the door, shut them down. That's what the defense is supposed to do. Shut the door, or So, and the other thing is, I have to agree with, I hate bringing up the uniform thing, but you were talking about it earlier this week.
Yep.
You're talking about the silver. See, what I would have done was the silver, like what the Raiders have with the silvery, with the uniform, but the helmet, I would have taken the idea from like the Oregon Ducks and had like a hologram kind of silver, but have like every time they turn the angle or the lighting hits the helmet, it would have like a little touch of blue or red in it with the streaking buffalo where it only shows certain angles, and I thought that would have been a great idea. And as far as the Super Bowl, listen, I'm old school. I went through 4 of them and we lost, so I still feel that. Yes, it was nice to go to the Super Bowl, but you go to the Super Bowl to win it in my ideas and take.
Yeah.
So thanks, guys, and I'm glad you guys enjoyed the Odyssey.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Thanks for the call. Yeah, I would like to have seen silver. By the way, like silver could have a shine to it on a uniform. It also just might be a lighter shade. Like if you look up some other teams that wear silver in college football or whatever, that uniforms color is silver, it is kind of gray, but it's way lighter than what they have. And the Bills kind of have silver in the rivalry series uniforms, right? The logo, the numbers on it.
All the shade. Ice patches on the shoulder and everything like that. It is more silver, yes.
803-0550 is the phone number. Some fantasy talk coming up at 9 o'clock. We'll talk with Scott Pianowski. And got a little hockey thing to get to a little bit later on. Caleb Elam's or nicknames. Kind of like Eeyore. Got a couple good candidates, though. It's Jeremy and Joe here on WGR.
For more comfort.
Now's the perfect time to make yourself comfortable with a new electric heating and cooling system from Belknap.
In Western New York, summer and winter bring extreme temperature conditions. Make yourself comfortable with Mitsubishi electric heat pumps, designed to keep your home cool in the summer and warm in the winter, no matter how hot or cold it gets outside. Call Belknap today to learn more.
I'm Gary Garfalo, president of Belknap. We work on your schedule. We don't charge more for weekends and evenings. That's why we say,
give Belknap a ring.
With this quarterback, and they're also, and if they just don't win it and they lose to the Rams, on some level for me it's just gonna be okay. It's one more year.
Yeah,
that's one more year where they didn't do it, and there would also be a lot of fans that would say, making the Super Bowl and losing it will just actually sign me up for even increased heartbreak because I'm even closer to winning it. And if I don't win it there, maybe in some heartbreaking fashion, now I'm going to be living in this dark place for however long after the game, really thinking about like, man, I'm really never going to do it, am I?
Right. I can totally see that. And I think that's where making it is, I think in a vacuum, people our age, Owen, and even you, Joe, like who weren't there for the 4 Super Bowl losses in a row, if they just go a step further and lose, it's not as bad. But for me, I don't think you make this coaching change for me unless you think it can be done, right? And I think that's going to be, if it ends up the same as it was with McDermott, I think that's where the frustration is going to be, where it's where Super Bowl or bust, I think, is coming from. Because you don't make this change unless you think it's going to go up from here. So I think that's where I'm at least. I expect it to, at the least, make it and lose whatever. I don't know how I feel about that in the moment. I don't really want to think about that. But,
right. How it could happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I think if they win the Super Bowl, I mean, they made the right decision. If they don't, I think you're looking at it as why was a change made kind of a thing.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the question I have is, what does bust mean in this context? What's going to happen? Is anything going to change? Because they're not going to fire Brady after 1 year if they don't win the Super Bowl.
And they just promoted the general manager, so I mean that's not an easy fire.
I think the heat would be on for the guy they just promoted.
Yeah.
Into the biggest spot. I think Bean would be feeling it at that point if they almost no matter what happens, if they don't win, there's going to be heat on him. And my question would just be, what Is bust just everybody's mad?
Pretty much.
I think everybody's going to be mad no matter what if they don't win. And I think everybody deserves to be and should be. And so if that's the bust, then it is absolutely, to me, Super Bowl or bust.
Yeah.
Because that is why this year feels so unique, I think, in the entirety of the NFL, because how often do you get a rookie head coach that comes in and he has to win the Super Bowl to be praised?
Yeah.
He has to win the Super Bowl in order for all of us, everybody in the Bills fandom, everybody, for us to go like, he did the job. He has to win the championship in his first year.
Right.
And that is massive pressure for a guy.
Don't miss the National Comedy Center's Comedy Festival coming up, featuring 50 live events, including comedian Bert Kreischer on August 8th. Live in Jamestown. Tickets at comedycenter.org. And right now, caller 5 at 2214-WGR will win a pair of tickets. See Bert Kreischer, Saturday, August 8th. Wearing a Blue Jays hat today. I haven't worn it in a while. It's a good hat. I've never seen a team that I root for have a giant decline like this.
Oh,
yeah. They were
catastrophic decline.
A lifted heel by a catcher away from winning the World Series. They were also like an inch away 5 other times.
Yeah.
From winning the World Series. And now they're like, what, the worst team in baseball?
I don't think Vladdy Guerrero Jr. has hit a home run in Toronto this season.
Oh. Dead last.
I read that.
Dead last in the AL East.
Yeah. Yeah, they
brutal.
Stink.
Hey, sometimes you don't always go back.
My Red Sox keep going.
Yeah, they're good. 7-3 the last 10.
Yeah, they've been crushing it. They beat the Athletics again yesterday.
Scott Pianowski. We'll talk some fantasy when we come back. Some Bills and some fantasy next here on WGR. So, Sal, on yesterday's practice, and the Bills did make a very minor roster move, Dante Pettis at wide receiver. You know, the fantasy sickos will remember Dante Pettis, Sal, from years ago, because he was a second-round pick that had a good rookie year with the Niners, and there was a lot of hype after that good rookie year, and he like really never did anything in the league after that receiving, but he's been in the league for 7 years. I'm not thinking about him making the Bills roster, but that was more of a he's still playing 7 years after he kind of disappeared, but here he is.
Yeah.
So
this will be his 31-year-old season.
Right.
I remember even going back then when it was probably around 2021 when Bills fans were like, hey, what about Dante Pettis? You know, because he had put a little work in the league, right, for a couple of years, and he was a free agent. But, I mean, yeah, it hasn't been great since. Now, a few years ago, he did have, 245 yards. It doesn't sound like anything, but that was well topping what he had done the previous couple of years, all combined, So it's more about this move to me the reactions I got when it was announced the Bills did this were mostly, why aren't they signing Brandon Cooks, right? It's, why are they signing Dante Pettis and not Brandon Cooks? I'll try my best to explain. Now, again, these are things that I just try to explain to people. You don't have to agree or disagree, but this is how teams operate, most teams, and this is how the Bills are operating in this situation, basically. Brandon Cooks is the kind of player that they're not going to sign him unless they need a receiver, like in their top half of their group. That's the kind of player you're not just bringing in to kind of compete for you to have a few reps at the bottom of the roster. You want to call it a camp body. I don't love those words because I think all people have a chance to make the roster. But you don't bring in Brandon Cooks to be a camp body. You bring in Brandon Cooks because you need a receiver and you plug and play, and he's going to be on your roster. And you make a bit of an investment. Now, it doesn't mean it's a lot of money. It could be even, closer to the minimum than a huge deal. That's fine. But if you bring in Brandon Cooks, he's playing over some of your guys that, quite frankly, they want to see through. They want to know what they have in Moore, Shakir, Coleman, Palmer, Bell. I would say those are the 5.
Just getting out here early and just going back and forth like we are today. Constant communication on the field between the 2 days, and we just going to keep building.
That's Bills wide receiver DJ Moore yesterday. 2 days of training camp down and a day off today for the Bills. They're back in action tomorrow for day 3. Defensive coordinator Jim Leonard also addressed the media yesterday. We're getting a first look at his defense. He spoke on Ed Oliver's place in the new scheme.
You got to make teams find him. If you know where a guy's going to be, it's a little bit easier for an offense to game plan. The front structures we're going to run, it's going to be more multiple than what they've done here in the past, and that frees up a guy like Ed.
All of the coach and player audio is available to you on demand at WGR550.com. Also, the Bills, they signed wide receiver Dante Pettis, formerly of the Saints, and they released wide receiver Jalen Virgil on a non-football injury designation. Coverage of training camp on WGR, presented by Fiegel Car and Joyce, your border attorneys, by Outlet Liquor. When you need to stock up, it's the place to buy a case. What's your outlet? And by the Barnes Firm. Car crash? You got to call the Barnes Firm. 1-800-8-million. Around the NFL, The Saints, they signed wide receiver Chris Olave to a 4-year, $132 million extension through 2030. And the 49ers, they signed wide receiver Deebo Samuel to a 1-year deal. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Joe Cali for Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
They say with injuries, you have to almost relearn where your feet go. I haven't really found that to be the case yet. As you start to introduce the stimulus of 11-on-11 football, especially with pads, you're only going to get stronger. So working through that, but no, for the most part, I feel great.
Michael Hoyt, pretty amazing. Back on the field, team drills, doing it all. He had an Achilles injury November last year. It was against Kansas City. I think that was in November. Good morning. It's Jeremy and Joe. Jeremy is off today, and he'll be back next week. Get you into the weekend. Bills camp off today. Practice yesterday. Practice tomorrow. And so far, so good on pretty much everything so far. Really, since Keon Coleman dropped the first pass of training camp, everything's been good since then, including him, right? He's made some plays since then. DJ Moore connecting with Josh Allen. We'll talk about some Bills here and some other fantasy storylines around the league. Scott Pianowski joins us now on the Wester Hotline, one of our favorites from Yahoo. Thanks, Scott, for coming on, and happy draft season. I think we could say that now, right? It's basically August.
Yeah, let's go. It's definitely draft season. Hope you're going to join us here at Yahoo. A lot of fun stuff going on. And, of course, we have teams in training camp, so we actually have news and adjustments and signings and injuries and videos and all this stuff, so a lot to sort through.
Is there anything that's happened around the league yet, injury-wise, that you think's made a big impact? We've had some, like Chris Brazzell, right, in Carolina. Maybe Pearsall in San Francisco. Would that be the biggest one so far?
Yeah, that's the one that's been the biggest reaction to my ranking. So Pearsall went from kind of an interesting wide receiver 3 to somebody I probably wouldn't draft. And before anybody could get excited about their rookie shriveling, they bring back Deebo Samuel. So, that's a really old team. McCaffrey, Kittle, Deebo, all Mike Evans. 3 of those guys are Hall of Famers. Deebo won't be, but the other 3 probably will be, and they're all in their 30s. Even their star left tackle, Williams, is a late 30s. So San Francisco has had trouble staying healthy for several years. There's been some kind of cockamamie reasons why suggested. I'm not sure if there's any truth to where they practice and everything, but just already a hit for them with Pearsall looking like somebody we can't draft. And they bring in Deebo. Deebo's kind of a guy who he's going to get in the way of other people producing. I don't think he's really all that draftable. I do like Purdy. I do like some other pieces in this offense, but Jake Tongas might get some run if Kittle isn't ready opening day, so keep an eye on him. But an old team and a team that's already been bitten by the injury bug.
Yeah, and their head coach and play caller also, has 40 stitches in his face at the moment, which isn't great also. We'll get back into some around the league stuff, Scott, but we've not spoken yet this offseason or since the DJ Moore trade, and he's had a couple practices on the same page, it looks like, from Josh Allen, but it was very early on. What was your reaction to that move, and what are you doing with DJ Moore? He's not going too high, but it is a little bit of a resurgence of his value, which was probably heading to no man's land if he had stayed in Chicago or gone somewhere else where he would have faded into the background.
For sure. It seemed like he was getting squeezed out. Chicago, the coaching staff did not inherit him, so they draft Loveland, the great tight end. They draft Burden, the star receiver, and then they did have Adunze, who was drafted by the previous regime. Makes sense for them to move on from Moore, and obviously Buffalo needs a front man in their wide receiver room. Diggs has been gone for a couple of years. Keon Coleman hasn't really turned into what they had hoped. And Dalton Kincaid, a really interesting player, 11.7 yards per target, but last year with his knee problems, they had to manage his snaps. He only played 38% of the snaps. Not that you ever expect him to be on the field every snap. Nobody plays that much, and they have different tight ends who can do different things. Dawson Knox will always have a role, but this team would really love to have somebody step up to be that alpha 1,000, 1,100, 1,200-yard receiver, maybe 75, 80 catches, flirt with double-digit touchdowns. I currently have Moore as wide receiver 27 on my team, so he'd be a lower end wide receiver 2 or higher end wide receiver 3. He's in that bucket with Evans, Christian Watson, Adunze, Marvin Harrison Jr., who's a really tough guy to figure out. Neighbors is in there. I'm not really sure I want to draft Neighbors, even though the news is trending a little bit more positive. But Moore goes to a team that has a need. There isn't great receivers around him. Obviously, Josh Allen is a superstar talent. I think he'll be in that wide receiver 2/3 bucket for most of the season.
Yeah, I don't know also how much you've baked this in, because I know Brady is, he's the same play caller. He is the head coach now. But I know there's a little bit of a sense that there will be a little bit more of a passing volume. They have been a run-heavy team the last couple of years. Some of that has been because of how great their line has been and James Cook, but another part of it has been the personnel outside. And like when I'm looking at where they were last year, Scott, and figuring out like, okay, if DJ Moore's coming in and he's getting 100+ targets, which feels right for what they invested, where is that coming from? And if Kincaid's going up, he was only at 49 last year. Like, where am I finding all these targets? There aren't a ton of guys that went out the door. It feels like a higher passing volume is how you would get there.
Yeah, I mean, last year they only threw 479 passes. They don't have anybody who goes over 100, and they only had Shakir, who even got past 60. So this passing distribution, there's a lot of guys got some run in this offense but weren't playable. Coleman wasn't playable. Knox wasn't playable. Josh Palmer wasn't playable. Whatever was left of Gabe Davis, he only played 5 games. I mean, it was hard. You know, I agree with you that the volume, you look at Josh Allen's career, right? 460 pass attempts last year, 483 the previous year. This is somebody who had been in the 500s and 600s for 4 consecutive seasons. Part of that is when you're winning games, you can control them late, you can run the ball. Obviously, Cook is a dynamic running back coming off a rushing title and a very good first-round pick, I think. He slipped into the second round of some drafts, but I would take Cook at the end of the first round and then never look back. But I would think they'll probably go 530 pass attempts or something like that. So where do the targets come from? They're just going to throw the ball, I think, 60, 70, 80 more times than they have in previous seasons, based on game flow and based on having a better number 1 receiver at the top of the food chain.
What type of drafter are you, by the way, at quarterback? Are you ever finding yourself with a Josh Allen? Do you normally wait? I mean, home leagues here, he probably goes really high, but he's pretty safe, right? Like he's either been the quarterback 1 or quarterback 2, I think, like 5 years running here.
I think it might actually be 6 years with that. So you know what you're getting with Josh Allen. Dynamic with the arm, obviously dynamic with the legs. He's been durable. But the problem with Allen for me is just that I think I can go down a tier and do nearly as well. And then I look at those guys, your Jacksons and Mays and Burrows and Daniels and Hurts. Well, what if I wait a tier? Maybe I get Caleb Williams with Ben Johnson, or I get Justin Herbert with Mike McDaniel. Trevor Lawrence was a league winner at the end of last season. He's got Cohen, who's a right answer in the play call. Dak Prescott has 2 dynamic receivers. We talked about Purdy, who I think is in a good spot if they can keep people healthy. Jackson Dart will run a lot. Having gotten in with guys like Stafford, Mahomes, Kyler Murray, if they can revitalize him in Minnesota. Jared Goff has an indoor schedule and really good pieces around him. Just a way of saying the depth at this position is so good that I would really like to load up my running back and wide receiver rooms. And as guaranteed as Josh Allen is, as you mentioned, number 1 and number 2 quarterback pretty much every year for half a decade, that kind of consistency and durability is very rare in fantasy football. It's very rare in the NFL, but I just like the depth of the position too much. And I'll probably be shopping in that Caleb Williams, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, Dak Prescott tier. And I'm really not minding who I get. I'm going to have shares of all of those guys when I'm finally done drafting. But by no fault of Allen's, I think the depth of the position encourages you to wait.
Yeah, Herbert's the one for me. I think I've drafted the most so far. I mean, that's McDaniel hype. It also quietly, like he was second in the league among quarterbacks in rushing last year. I don't know if that'll repeat. That might have been by necessity last year, but if we start to go around the league a little bit, Scott, I saw you tweeting the other day about the Chargers offense, and I'm pretty excited about it, again, because of the play caller change. Maybe there are a lot of mouths to feed and figure out, like, who gets what. Can everybody be involved? Maybe that's tight end more for them than anybody, but are you thinking that the Chargers offense is going to be kind of a fantasy hotbed this year?
Yeah, it's hard to know who's going to be the winner there, but obviously McDaniel. You love when you have an offensive quote-unquote genius who failed as a head coach, or at least at the end of his tenure in Miami, it was a failure. You get him back to his coordinator roots. You think of people like Wade Phillips. You think of people like Josh McDaniels. You think of people like Steve Sarkisian. People who needed to go back to being a play caller, a unit designer. Love the McDaniel hire. And last year, their offensive line fell apart as soon as the season started. The fact that they made the playoffs with that makeshift offensive line, you mentioned Herbert running probably by necessity. He may lose some of those yards, but he'll be better for it because he won't get hit as much and he'll be able to do some things downfield. The player I'm probably drafting most proactively in that offense is Ladd McConkey, who looked like a superstar in the second half of his rookie year. And then last year, the run-out was clunky because of the play calling was stale. The offensive line was hurt. Keenan Allen was still there, chewing up those 70, 80 catches that didn't have a ton of fantasy value, but they got in the way of other people. I think McConkey in the fourth round makes a lot of sense. I'm fine with him. Marion Hampton, he's more of a second-round pick to me. I've seen him go in the first round of some drafts. Herbert's a target for me. I'm a little bit nervous about Gadsden only because they did bring in Njoku. So, again, he's probably going to have 65, 70 targets off the shelf there. It's a little bit of a timeshare. They do different things. They're at different points of their career arc. And even though I don't think Quentin Johnson is really that great of a player, he'll probably get 850 and 6 or 850 and 7. He'll be playable as like that wide receiver 3 type of player. I definitely think the arrow is pointing up on this Chargers offense.
Scott Pianowski with us on the Western Hotline. Scott_Pianowski if you want to check out his stuff on Twitter. On some of the injured guys, Scott, we talked about the Niners earlier. What is your philosophy on guys that are coming back from injury that might be practicing right now? This could be Mahomes. This could be Malik Neighbors, maybe Tucker Kraft eventually. Sometimes those guys go at a discount, right, because of the injury before that. But are those players that you typically steer away from, or do you like to cash in on the lower price that they'll go for?
In the case of Kraft and George Kittle, I don't think they're actually going at any kind of a discount. Tucker Kraft, very exciting player last year, right answer for 2 months. I think he was a tight end 2 before he has that ACL injury. In the case with Kittle is Achilles injury, and that goes back to January. He hasn't had that much time to rehab. I'm going to back off those guys. Mahomes, first of all, look, the Kansas City offense, this is a Maserati that's turned into a Toyota. It has not been a sports car offense for a couple of years. And last year, Mahomes was useful more on the ground than we'd ever seen before with the resourcefulness and the scrambling. He's going to pull back on that. Kelsey is a catch-and-fall guy at this point in his career. I think Rice is a good player, but maybe not a dynamic player. They kind of lost the plot with Xavier Worthy last year. I think it's a mistake to just look at Kansas City, and we always think, oh, Mahomes, Andy Reid, top 5 offense. I think those days are over now. Remember the Chiefs didn't make the playoffs last year, and I know Mahomes got hurt at the end of the season, but they were going to miss the playoffs on his watch before then, and yet people didn't really want to bake that in. Generally, Neighbors is somebody I haven't drafted. I realize that maybe the news is trending forward, but he's hardly had any reps with Jackson Dart yet. My idea is I don't like to draft into injuries, whether it's fresh injuries, Pearsall situation, it's older injuries, situation with Alec Pierce. He get the big contract with the Colts, but how healthy is he? He's talking about he's never really 100%. That's kind of the situation with the Dunze in Chicago. You're going to have injuries. They're going to find you. I'm not looking for players, whether it's already hurt or coming off an injury. I think you want to be optimistic. You want everybody to have their best foot. You want everybody to reach their potential. But I always say that it isn't always fun drafting your fantasy team like an actuary, but it's usually the right way to go.
Yeah, feels like you're avoiding risk more so when you're taking that approach. At tight end, are there any guys, McBride, Bowers, like they're the top 2, and you mentioned Kittle. You're right, like looking at ADP, you're right, there isn't a discount much on Kraft or Kittle. Is there a guy that's going a little bit further down the board that you like as a breakout this year?
A lot of guys I like. The Loveland is going to be very expensive the way he ended the season. He was the tight end 2 over the last 2 months, and he was getting double-digit targets in their playoff games. I think Tyler Warren has a similar upside in Indianapolis. We talked about Pierce not being 100%. Obviously, Michael Pittman has gone. It sounds like Daniel Jones is going to play. We'll see how healthy he is. I could see Warren leading that team in targets and catches, and it's kind of a way to get some of that Loveland upside with an exciting second-year player with a little bit of a cheaper cost. Sam Laporta, I think we're holding it against him that he was the tight end 1 his rookie year, and then he's fallen off because of a little bit of a crowding issue. He was hurt last year. Detroit has a very easy schedule. It's an indoor schedule. Their defense may be a little bit leaky. Maybe that pushes the scoring up. They're actually projected by the Las Vegas look-ahead lines to score the most points in the NFL for whatever the implied totals mean to you. I think he's a little bit mispriced. Kyle Pitts in some formats was tight end 2 last year. You can get him as tight end 7, 8, or 9 in a lot of leagues. I realize a quarterback change, but they had bad quarterback play last year. Pitts did cram a lot of that production into the end of the season. But I think because everybody in your league has been burned by Kyle Pitts at one point, I think maybe he goes a round or two later than he should. And then outside the top 10, a lot of interesting targets. We talked about Kincaid, the 11.7 yards per target. If he can stay healthy, he's a dynamic player. Jawan Johnson was a top 8, top 10 tight end last year. He's been outside top 20 in ADP. The last Yahoo search that I did, I don't really understand it. I know he only had 3 touchdowns, but got paid before last season, was really good. Hunter Henry, one of those boring veteran values you can get a lot of times. Jake Ferguson checks those boxes. And if you want somebody outside the top 20, A.J. Barner, I think he's going to score 7 or 8 touchdowns for the Seahawks. And he was so good last year as their tush-push guy. He had something like 10 or 12 rushing attempts, and almost all of them went for first downs. He only had 1 touchdown, but I realized that was also with a different offensive coordinator. But I could see him being the kind of sneaky 700, 800, 7 or 8 touchdowns, maybe he even runs in a touchdown. JSN is obviously the number 1 guy in that passing game, but Kupp, end of his career, they couldn't really get Shaheed going last year. We'll see if that pops this year. I think A.J. Barner is a little bit underrepresented in Seattle.
Yeah, 6 receiving touchdowns last year. I didn't know the tush-push thing about him. Yet 10 carries. I mean, if he could add 3 or 4 even, maybe that's asking a bit much, then that's a real value at that position where, I mean, especially tight end, Scott, it feels like once you're getting down into those areas, a lot of guys are touchdown dependent, right? Hasn't this kind of been Mark Andrews for a couple years now? Like, if he scores 10 touchdowns, you're happy, but he also might score 5.
We're also hoping that we can get a little bit of definition and or separation with the Rams. They're going to throw 10 to 12 touchdowns to their tight ends, but it might be that multiple guys. Colby Parkinson was useful last year. Terrence Ferguson is a player they like a lot. And, of course, it's an offense with 2 dynamic receivers. And they have Kyron Williams is a good player. I think Blake Corum is a very interesting number 2 back there. I could see him scoring maybe 8 to 10 touchdowns. He was on a pace for, I want to say, 911 rushing yards and 7.7 touchdowns after the final 10 weeks when they made him a regular player, was getting double-digit carries every week. So put a circle on him. We're always trying to play the game at running back, who could pop and maybe beat their ADP. But the Rams are a destination offense. Again, I just wish they had maybe a little bit less crowding in their tight end room.
Yeah. Before we have another minute or two here with Scott Pianowski, I did want to move us over to running back for a moment. What to you is the toughest backfield to figure out right now in the league?
Probably Denver. I mean, J.T. Dobbins is a veteran. R.J. Harvey had the touchdowns last year, not the efficiency. Jonah Coleman is somebody they drafted who they like a lot. Sean Payton likes to use multiple backs. So it's kind of hard to know how to play that. You would think that Harvey would have better efficiency this year, but last year he was so good with the touchdowns, and that's unlikely to repeat. What are the Patriots going to do between Stevenson and Henderson? Henderson was a mistake last year for fantasy drafters. He had a great summer, and then they were kind of slow to trust him. Should be a good offense. We have to accept that a lot of these teams are going to have platoons. I also think it's fascinating what's going on in Carolina, where Jonathan Brooks has started to go before Chuba Hubbard, which I think is a mistake. I realize Brooks is younger. He has the higher ceiling, but he's been hurt so much. He's had the 2 ACL blowouts. I kind of need to see it from Brooks before I believe it. And I realize that might mean you just don't get him, but I would understand if people were drafting him somewhat proactively, but I think taking him in front of Hubbard, who's been paid, who is somebody they like, even if he's more of a kind of an average talent skill-wise. Also, they've had offensive line injuries in Carolina, so maybe there's no right answer in that backfield. But I'm kind of curious to see what goes on there. And then Washington has so many different guys. JCM, they bring in Rashad White. They've drafted people. There's a lot of different people in that backfield. I also, Bucky Irving, I'm nervous to draft him with the pieces behind him. I think Sean Tucker is maybe the best number 3 running back in the league. They obviously bring in Gainwell, who's an excellent pass catcher, a very good offensive line, probably a top 5 unit there. So we could do a 30-minute segment on running backs because there's so few bell cows. You like to reduce the backfield to 2.
Yeah.
And then if you get to 3, sometimes it becomes tricky for fantasy. But then again, that's where the payoff is. If you can get a nebulous backfield and solve it, then you come out smelling like a rose. And I didn't mention Jacksonville with Tootin, and they bring in Rodriguez, who played with Cohen. Pittsburgh has 2 backs, and Aaron Rodgers likes to throw to his running backs. And I feel like 25 or 26 teams around the league have some sort of running back intrigue. What's Minnesota going to do? It's just we could, again, this is what we're all trying to solve, because if you get the right answers at running back, you have such a great chance of doing well in your league.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. We could do more than a half hour. Probably could do like 2 hours on all the backfields, and it would have been quicker maybe to mention the ones that we kind of do know about. You didn't even mention, I think, in all that, the Rams. And I'm not wondering, I guess, there about, like, is one guy going to produce? Like, Kyron Williams should. It's almost, is there enough to go around for 2 of them? Because Corum finally got some run last year and got some goal line work. But I don't know. I don't know if you would see their offense being so good that it could supply 2 running backs. We've had a little of that, right? Like the Lions were good enough, and they had a balance where Montgomery and Gibbs at times you could play both. And maybe the Rams could be that too.
For sure. I think Corum's going to score 7-8 touchdowns. And another lead with one last theme at running back to think about. How quickly do the rookie running backs get the offenses to themselves? Jeremiah Love, so many other talented players in that Arizona backfield. Obviously, they drafted him 3rd overall, so you do that, you're going to play the guy. But you want to invest in the infrastructure of your running back. And Arizona may be one of the worst teams in football. Darren Price was also a 1st-round pick. But is he going to share with Halani? Is he ultimately going to share with Charbonnet whenever he comes back? I don't know. I haven't been drafting Price. I haven't been drafting Love either. I don't want to be tied to Arizona. And you also have to ask yourself, if you care about running back infrastructure, the team around you. And I realize Devin Achane beat it last year, but can he beat it again with a bad offensive line, with a quarterback who may not throw checkdowns to his running back? Devin Achane is on my fade list. I'm not going to take him in round 2.
Yeah. Yeah, before we let you go here, Arizona, that's a team I've struggled with because I want to be McBride has been so good and record-breaking even, and you saw the breakout from Wilson last year. There are so many guys I kind of want to be excited about. Maybe not Harrison because he can't catch a ball at practice right now. But I'm not. I guess my worry there, Scott, isn't even if it's Brissett. It will be Brissett. It's if they have 2 wins going into November and they decide, let's just put in Carson Beck or whoever we just want to take a look at, and does that kill whoever was playing well at that point?
I have the same concerns you do, that they're going to be a lookout below team. And at some point, it's just going to make sense to play Carson Beck and evaluate their future. And it's a very good quarterback class coming up in the next draft. So find out if your rookie has picked up anything, if you can build a future around him. Brissett's a good backup and a good kind of quasi-starters that don't in the back of your car, but he's not a long-term solution. And the volume they had in their passing game last year was just unrepeatable. I think Brissett was on pace. If you took the games he started to a full season, it's over 700 pass attempts. That even if you're a bad team, that's just not going to be replicable year over year. So, like you, I see a lot of players. McBride's a dynamic player. Harrison was drafted early. Michael Wilson was one of the most important waiver wire finds from last year, and then they spend the capital on Love, so you would think the expectations are high there. But I'm just concerned that a lot of this is going to collapse under the weight of a team that's going to win 3 or 4 games.
All right, Scott Pianowski from Yahoo. We've talked to you about Guillotine. Did you discover any new fun formats this year? Or have we kind of unburied everything that we can create here in fantasy?
And man, there's a lot of stuff out there. Guillotine's a blast. Tight end premium is really fun. I always think you want to make your league better. The simplest way is to add more flexes, more people to root for.
Yep.
On game day, I'm a big super flex guy. I mean, whatever. The bottom line is, whatever way people want to play fantasy. I'll be in a couple of pick'em pools. I'll be in a couple of survivor pools. We talk a lot of Guillotine on this show with you guys. That's a blast of a format and so much game theory going on there. But even just the more traditional leagues are fun as well. I'm going to sample the whole menu. And again, in Yahoo, there's a lot of diversity in format. So I hope you check us out this year. We get some interesting talent coming over this season and doing a lot of fun stuff behind the scenes. Some of it's been revealed, some of it hasn't been. But it'll be a fun year to be on Yahoo, but there's no wrong way to play fantasy. If you want to play it scoring on your kitchen table, that's fun. If you want to play in a really sophisticated league and, that a lot of starters, which I think is a lot of fun, you can do it that way. There's really no wrong answer.
Scott Pianowski with us. Thanks, Scott. Always love our chats, and hopefully we can chat again closer to the season.
I look forward to that. Thanks, guys.
Scott Pianowski, at Scott_Pianowski. Get all his stuff there, podcasts, his writings about fantasy, tight ends they were talking about recently. And, formats I think were almost tapped out because I have not seen one this summer that I'm not in one of those. Let me get into something like that. Not that I've seen.
I joined my first guillotine league.
Gotta.
I've never done it. I'm excited. It's a chopped league, actually. Is that the same thing?
Same thing.
Okay.
That's actually an annoyance of mine is that all the different sites call them something different.
Yes.
They're just call them guillotine.
Yeah.
One of them, it's a chopped league. One site, it's a death league. The other, it is guillotine league. The other, it's there's different names for all of it. Sleeper, I think it's chopped.
Chopped is that's where I joined it. The chopped league. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
it's a really fun concept.
It is. It's fun.
That's the one that everybody should be in. I've tried Vampire. It's not for me.
That is crazy to me, that entire concept. When we were talking about the Odyssey at its inception, we mentioned the vampire thing, and it was just it's insane to me. What is it again? You plucking players from teams.
There's one vampire who doesn't draft, starts with all free agents, and if they beat a team, they get to take a player from their roster.
That's insane.
So,
I feel like it'd be fun if you had the right group of people, though.
Well, it's only really that fun, I think, if you are the vampire. Not that fantasy isn't fun otherwise. It's just a normal fantasy league for everybody else.
Right.
But if you play the vampire, or if you are the vampire,
then you get a new twist.
Then it's a challenge and it's a new twist, right? But you don't really get that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, crazy fantasy formats for this year. He mentioned tight end premium. I'm in a couple leagues that have gone to that. Never do IDP.
No.
Never do IDP. Yeah. Otherwise,
I think
contract leagues I've seen, tried them. There's a lot there. A little too much. I did think of, though, a spin on that where you could have a league that has a contract system and a salary cap, but it's the contract that they make in the NFL. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So, hey, Justin Jefferson just got paid. So guess what? Your cap hit for Justin Jefferson is what it is on the Vikings.
Right.
So that'll affect how you
run your show.
Whenever there's extensive money involved, I worry because the cap stuff, I was in one of those last year, and it was just a nightmare logistically with managing waiver claims and all that.
Here's a league I've never heard of that somebody just sent me.
Okay.
It's kind of a vampire league, but a little different. It's called a pirate league, where it's a normal fantasy league, but if you win, no matter who you are, you win your head-to-head matchup, you get to poach one player from the loser's bench.
That's cool.
Oh, all right.
And so it's not just the vampire having the fun. Everyone can kind of get in on it.
Bye weeks, though, would just be madness.
Yeah, that would be insane.
I don't know. I would need some edits to that because you can't say, well, I got to put McCaffrey in my lineup on a bye week because I don't want to lose him. Yeah, I don't know about that. 803-0550 is the phone number. Training camp, our Super Bowl poll from earlier will update you on where that's at. I think it's interesting to see how many Bills fans would say, no, losing in the Super Bowl is not good enough for me. And how many would say, yeah, I'm good with that for this season. That's next here on WGR. Notice a rattle in your ducts or a rise in your heating and cooling bills? If you do, give Belknap a ring. 0% financing. The cost of upgrading to a high-efficiency dual-fuel heating system is a breeze. Learn more at belknapheating.com. That's belknapheating.com. Good morning. It's Jeremy and Joe. It's a beautiful day out again. It was a beautiful day out yesterday as well. My dog I took for a big walk yesterday, Chestnut Ridge Park. He was halfway through and he quit. He
Quit?
Gave up.
Me quit.
He sat down.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not taking another step.
How long was the walk? What mileage count were you at?
It was a pretty long walk, but he's done it before. He doesn't have his summer legs yet, apparently.
No.
The summer legs.
He's still getting a good amount of walks. Maybe not as many with the baby around, but close to it. He got halfway through. He just sat down. Pull on the leash a little bit. Like, I am not walking. I'm done.
It's over.
One thing I've become a lot more conscious about dog walks, the pads of their feet can burn from pavement.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that is something you don't really think about on the forefront. But then these super hot days where the sun's just blazing down,
Yeah, it's
you got to be careful.
Yeah, the toe beans. They
toe beans.
They get a little burnt.
Yes.
Yesterday would have been, I think, okay for that.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been.
No, cloudy. Yeah, it's shady there as well.
Yep.
Today's another good day. Do something outside.
I know.
I've not really done a lot though with like the lake and the river, like water. Like I've not gone in the lake yet this year.
I need to do that too.
I think the water still. Did the water ever get warm?
The water is fantastic.
It's
I live
now,
on the water, just on the river portion of it, and I don't take it for granted. I could jump in regularly. It's very
74
nice.
degrees.
Yeah,
what I see here right now.
That's
on these hot days where it's gonna be like 84 today. It's gonna feel really nice.
That's awesome.
What else is happening today? I saw there's a spacecraft that's gonna crash into the moon by accident. Like a discarded rocket from like years ago.
Yeah.
Will it shift the moon's orbit?
Debris.
Stories like that are always interesting to me. Like this one, I don't think this happened once before. I think where like a old rocket from like 5 years ago. There was a story though from I think last year where something entered Earth's atmosphere and they didn't know what it was, and it was a rocket from one of the Apollo missions in like the 60s.
Oh wow.
That had done a lap around like the sun. And somehow re-entered.
Back.
Yeah.
Wow. That's intense.
Are we sure the one hitting the moon is ours?
What do you mean?
Not a UFO?
No, it's
an alien spacecraft?
It's ours. Don't worry about
it. This one's on us.
Man, training camp, it's funny how like close it already is to the end. It's only been 2 practices, but there are so few at St. John Fisher. And it's such a weird year for that. You know, the blue and red scrimmage is coming up really quick. I mean, next Saturday, it's just I don't know what that day is going to be like. It's going to be strange. I've got friends asking, like, are you tailgating for it? I'm like, it's a Saturday. If the weather's nice, the lots are open hours before. It's going to be a full house. Like, maybe? Yeah. That is a good tailgate event. Why not?
Why not?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even, it's above maybe preseason for how many people are going to be there, what you're used to.
And the excitement will be greater than any preseason game.
Yes.
Because it's your first time into the building.
It's just been such a strange event. Like, it'll, in a good way, it'll be unique. But
do you pregame preseason games if you go?
Never.
See,
never once in my life.
I've done once, and it was Cardell Jones' debut.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. It was also like my second Bills game. I was a kid, yeah. So, we were like, what, 12?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going back years. 2016, he's on the Bills.
Yeah.
Right? Give or take.
Here we go. Back in the day.
Another former Bill that won a national championship.
Yeah. Look at that. Yeah, that was the only preseason game I've ever done that with, and I was a kid, so. I think it was Kids' Day.
I think it is weird. We asked this to Sal a little bit earlier. It's getting strange. When has Tyler Bass kicked in front of people?
Yeah, it's been a long time, it feels like.
Has it been more than a year? He was dealing with injury last year. I think he kicked in the preseason and then got re-injured.
Yeah.
And they shut him down. It's such a weird existence for him because him going away for over a year here basically has made everybody forget the struggles that he really had the previous season when he was here. I mean, it was almost over.
Yeah,
it was
very close.
Really close. They had another kicker on the practice squad because it was going poorly enough that they might have had to make a pivot.
Yeah, that was following his wide right against the Chiefs, right? After that, it kind of deteriorated.
Right, but then it was even the next regular season.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like after that, his confidence was shot, and he was just not doing great.
Right.
And you go back and look at the numbers, and I mean, he's under contract, and he also has, I believe, a dead cap hit. Like if they wanted to do something with Tyler Bass, he has a $3 million cap hit right now. I guess they would save $1.7 million if they cut him, so they could. They could actually do it. That has not been true in previous seasons because of the contract he had. But, I mean, at the end of the day, how good is he? They are waiting and waiting and waiting, like he's our kicker, he's our kicker. But last year, he wasn't their kicker, and they got better kicking from a guy who was 40 years old. Matt Prater, last season with the Bills, 90% field goal percentage, kicking, a good amount of field goals. He 20 attempts, really, that was it, actually. But Bass typically is, around 29, 31.
Right.
But
they
90
try him from a little further out, too.
Yeah. 90% on field goals. Bass has never had 90% in his career. And he was under 83% in each of his last 2 seasons, which by percentage is one of the worst kickers in the league. And even from distance, I remember he came into the league with, I was excited about, they've got a kicker who can kick 60-plus yard field goals.
Yeah.
Now everybody should be able to do that.
Exactly.
And what is Bass on long-distance field goals? This is going to be a little outdated, but I had a stat in September of 24 where he was 63% on 50-plus yard field goals, which in his career was 23rd out of 33 qualifying kickers.
Mm-hmm.
So since then, maybe he's gone up a little bit.
Right.
But he's not excellent in that department. Extra points in his career, 96%. That's fine. But, the Bills had 2 kickers last year. Remember Matthew Wright was here for a minute.
Yes.
Matthew Wright, not a long-distance kicker at all. His career field goal percentage is 88%. That is 4% higher than Bass. That's a guy that's just available all the time.
Right.
So, to me, you have a very replacement-level kicker here. And he's been here for 5 years, 6 years now, really. And he's liked well enough, but it was almost over. He kicked a 61-yard field goal against the Dolphins to win a game that saved his job.
Yes. That's very true. If that doesn't go in, that's it.
How much do you trust him in a big moment in a playoff game right now? It's hard to know because he hasn't kicked in a while,
right.
And maybe there is a bounce back. He's been gone, but
or is it that that feels like a gig that it's probably tough to take a year off and be
that I don't know.
Operating at the level of precision that I would assume being a kicker takes.
Yeah,
that's a good question.
These are not I think of it like golf, where you're swinging a golf club, your margin for error is very small. You miss it by 3 centimeters one way or the other, high, low, left, right, and you're missing.
Blows
and
up the whole
it's
thing.
A problem. And is this the kind of thing where reps matter a lot? You take a year off swinging a golf club, you're not going to hit it very good for a while. And that's not – I don't want to sign up for, not having a kicker that can make kicks for, 3 months.
No, sure.
That doesn't appeal to me at all. And also, in the time he's been away and since he's been here a while, the league has sort of undergone a kicker, sort of surge where these guys like Brandon Aubrey and Cameron Dicker are hitting 65-yard
Cam Little
bomb
the
kicks.
Jags.
Yes,
the Jags could hit a 70-yarder.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bunch of dudes that kick it really far, and the gap might be sort of growing from even when he was still here,
right?
And when he was still kicking for the Bills, and where it is now, he might be further from the top of the game than we might realize.
Yeah, right. That was the 50-plus yard field goal stat was comparing him in years where guys weren't kicking it this far because it's happened very quickly. It's happened in the last 2-3 years that the rate at which kickers are going for 58, 59, 60-plus yard field goals. Now Cam Little is going for 70-yard field goals and making them. That has happened overnight, basically. And Bass, from the beginning of his career to now, it is a different kicking world. And I've got a guy who statistically is not that good from long distance.
Right.
Now, part of that would be the weather also, right? He's been kicking in a stadium that late in the season is not great for that. But still, I think I would be a little nervous if you told me that a big kick with the season on the line is on his foot. One way to determine for yourself, do you have confidence in the Bills' kicking situation, is put yourself in the AFC Championship game, and I tell you I've got a 42-yard field goal to win the game or I go home.
You're not confident.
You feel confident? Because that's not even that long.
No.
42 yards for Brandon Aubrey or Cam Little is a chip shot.
Yeah, it's an easy one.
How much confidence would you have in Tyler Bass right now? And if I told you you're going to the Super Bowl if it goes through, you're going home if it doesn't, 42-yard field goal.
Yeah.
You taking it?
It almost feels like an unfair question because we haven't seen him.
Mm-hmm. I know.
It's like, I don't know.
Well, the last time...
Did he kick all year? I don't even...
The last time he played, a lot of people might not have taken it.
Maybe
I have to make it. Maybe I have to make it a little further than 42, 45,
Right.
48.
Yeah, well, that's the sample everyone's looking back on is what he was the last time he was out there. And also to a point of taking time off. When you go to the driving range and everything like that, you might be better on the range than you are in an actual game situation, right? Or a match situation. Yeah. Look at Rodrigo Blankenship, right? Look at he's kicking crazy field goals, long ones at a high school football field. You put him on the field, you're not guaranteeing the same result. You put who's the other one? Younghoe Koo. He planted his foot into the turf last year. He dug his toe into the turf. Like that's what happens when you don't play for very long, when you're not doing it very frequently. So there's also that aspect of it too. How rusty is he? And he might be good in practice as well. But it's also the fact of, in a game-time situation, the pressure might mount. So I don't know.
Can we trade for Brandon Aubrey?
That's a good question. It's a good question.
Second-round pick?
What's he worth in a trade?
Second-round pick?
Brandon Aubrey.
Seems appropriate.
More? First?
Maybe. He might be a first-round pick.
He is now also under contract, though. 4 years, $28 million.
See, I don't need to pay the guy and have the kicker.
I mean...
Here's where the phone lines start lighting up for Justin Tucker. So
He was the worst kicker in football the last time
he
we saw
was.
him.
He was.
Yeah, Aubrey, man, look at the numbers. Aubrey from 50+. I want from 60+. Pro Football Reference has got to update this. We need the 50 to 59 column and then 60+. Because right now it's just 50+. And, man, 50 yards compared to 67 yards.
That's a very different game.
Can't be in the same category.
We're not in like 08 here, where that's a long one. We've moved past that.
Extendo Sports, when we come back, we'll wrap it up, get you to the Northtown Automotive Extra Point Show. It's coming up here on WGR. All right, the Bills will practice tomorrow. Pete Carmichael will speak with the media, Bills offensive coordinator. And then on Monday, Joe Brady back at the podium. So we'll carry that live on Monday. Very quickly before we go, there are a couple of controversies in sports. One is happening in FIFA, where they're trying to sell World Cup stakes. There was a higher-up at FIFA that resigned today because the president is had a power thing here. And the other one is there's another Kawhi Leonard scandal now that involves the Rhode Island governor and a fake soccer team.
Oh my God.
So that cap circumvention story in the NBA continues and gets bigger. All right, stay tuned. Extra Point Show is next. Talk to you on Monday.